Good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. It is 5:30 p.m. and I am calling the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors meeting to order. And clerk of the board, will you please note attendance for a quorum? And I'll just publicly state that we have directors Joaquin Lara Midkiff and Director Ian Davidson online, and we expect Director Holmstrom to arrive shortly. And now I'll pass it over to our general manager for a safety minute.
Thank you. I'd asked Melissa Kidd, our project and contracts control program manager, her title's so long I can't remember, to present the safety minute.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. September is National Preparedness Month. Whether it is dealing with natural disasters, health crisis, or man-made incidents, it is critical to be prepared for the unexpected. Why is being prepared so important? Being prepared by having an emergency plan in place helps save lives by ensuring everyone knows what to do when a disaster strikes. Being prepared protects property, whether it is a flood, fire, or another natural disaster. An emergency plan helps mitigate damage. Being prepared builds and boosts community resilience, helping everyone to bounce back quickly from the disaster. Being prepared reduces the strain on public health and safety systems, particularly during widespread emergencies. How we can be prepared in the workplace. It's critical to review emergency plans, have up-to-date emergency supplies, and practice drills to ensure readiness for severe weather or unexpected events. Cherriots actively utilizes and keeps updated the continuity of operation plan. Special shout out to Randy Novolinsky, emergency coordinator, and the rest of the team that keep our emergency plan relevant and top of mind. We also have up-to-date emergency supplies, AEDs, and first aid kits, in addition to regularly conducted emergency evacuation drills and opportunities for first aid and CPR training. These best practices help ensure we are ready to act in the event of an emergency, improving safety and reducing the risk of injury. This concludes my safety moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any announcements or changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, so that brings us to our presentations for our Million Mile Driver Recognition. General Manager?
Yes, thank you. I'd ask Tom Dietz, our Chief Operations Officer, to please come forward.
Thank you, President Enos-Pressy, General Manager Pollock, members of the board. I'm going to be remotely here because you'll understand in a minute, but thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm here to ask a question. Shall the board recognize Craig Spots, Marlena House, Paul Hudnall, Justin Schaefer, Francisco Talento, and John Welsh as achieving 1 million miles without a preventable accident, and Harry McFadden for achieving 2 million miles without a preventable accident? So I am beyond excited to be here tonight to finally roll this program out and to recognize these fine individuals that deliver service out to our community, creating those community connections, and couldn't be more proud of the work that they do, and wish them all the best in that endeavor.
Well.
Yeah, go ahead. So I have a little presentation here. So what does it mean to be a million-mile operator? So it changes depending on where you're working in transit. And it was a transit-only thing for a while, and then truck driving got involved, and they actually will drive 1 million miles. So it muddied the waters for transit. So if you drove the Route 22, for example, you'd have to drive for 17 millennia to get 1 million miles. So it's really based on time, and it's a formula that the mysterious they came up with, and then we added one other aspect. So it really is driving 12 consecutive years without a preventable accident, and work at least 1,600 hours in each of those years, which these individuals have done. One of them has done it twice. So next slide, please. So I present to you the Million Mile Club, Class of 2025, the inaugural class of this program that we hope will live on for years to come. Next slide. So faces to those names, if you could just stand up real quick. Francisco Talento. John Welch. Justin Schaefer is not here tonight. Marlena House. Paul Hudnall. And Craig Spots is also not here tonight. And last but not least, Harry McFadden. Next slide. So how will they be recognized? So they each will have a dedicated parking space at Del Webb for 12 months, and they have a blade sign on each post with their name on it, that when their 12 months in that spot is over, they will get to take their sign with them. There will be a decal on the curb side of a bus. So we have 7 Million Mile Club operators. There will be 7 buses. Obviously, that decal is not to scale on that picture, but that gives you an idea of where it will be on the buses. And they're actually out in the system right now.
I was gonna say, literally yesterday, my daughter was like, why is there like a blue ribbon badge on the bus? And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. Okay, next slide, please. Recognized by the Board of Directors, which is what we're doing here tonight. A Million Mile Club jacket with the logo on the left chest and a Million Mile Club patch with a rocker panel recognizing the million miles. And they will be recognized with $1,000 after taxes for each million miles they've driven. And at Del Webb, already up on the wall, is the perpetual plaque. That is the Wall of Fame plaque. I don't have a current picture of it up there. So again, to you, operators, thank you for all you do, all you have done to get here, and the additional miles you'll drive going forward. Harry's going to go for 4 million miles. Thank you. Okay, so we will invite them up one at a time to get their certificate presented to them, as well as their jacket, and a photo opportunity with the board. So when I call your name, come on up, and I'll give you a quick little story about each one. So Marlena House. Marlena has been with Cherriots for 15 years. Driving is her passion, and each ride is a chance for her to make somebody's day a little brighter. She is proud to be here, and we are very proud of her to have her on the team. Paul Hudnall. Paul has been with Cherriots for 25 years. He is a rock-solid member of the operator roster. He's also a union shop steward. Congratulations, Paul. Well deserved. Francisco Talento. Francisco has been with Cherriots for 20 years. He delivers world-class customer experience on a daily basis. He also performs a valuable service out in the region when he's not driving a bus. Thank you for your dedication to our community, Francisco. John Welch. John Welch has been with Cherriots for 25 years. John is a positive influence here at the district with his upbeat attitude and constant jokes. Some might call them something else. He is an operator instructor, a new hire mentor, and a member of the Cherriots Connects Committee. And now for the 2 Million Mile Club, Harry McFadden. Harry has been with Cherriots for 26 years. Harry is an operator instructor, union shop steward, and a member of the Cherriots Safety and Security Committee. He is our only 2 Million Mile operator, and this is a big deal in the transit world, I clearly applaud you and very proud of that achievement for you, Harry. That is amazing, and we appreciate you and everything you do. Okay, so now we do a group picture.
Come on down.
Put them on.
Yeah, we're just here.
Tighten it up a little bit down here. A little bit. Sideways. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
So Zoom is that one.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And just another quick shout out as we say bye to our operators for their success. And as we just shuffle around and adjust, do any board members want to say something towards this award or anything? Just wanted to give space. No? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tom, also for all your work in putting together this recognition. Like, it just, every item, I was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. So I hope that they feel that recognition that they deserve. Okay, so this will bring us to our public comment portion of the evening. I primarily have folks that have signed up in person, and I have one person online. I do want to recognize folks that submitted public comment via email. So we received public comment from Dakota Saunders, Julie Hall, Sedcor, Chuck Flowers, Kate, Daniel Potter, Larry Sipe, Mike DeBlasi, Margaret Stevens, Kathy Howell, 350 Salem, Oregon, Spencer Woolley, Liz Henderson, Lori Miller, Lisa Schneider, Angela Williams, Elliot Groenveld, and the Marion County Board of Commissioners. And I think I'll start with our person online. Just as a reminder, folks have 3 minutes for public comment, since we do have a little bit of a list of folks, and we'd like to get through everyone. I ask that you stick to your 3 minutes. We can have a timer going, and we can notify you if you run out of time. So first, we'll go with Kim Davis.
Hello, my name is Kim Davis, and I live in the 97306 area. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. I would like to voice my strongest support for the proposed progressive employer tax to expand and improve our essential bus service throughout the Salem area. Salem workers and their families are struggling to make ends meet as the cost of living rises, our housing crisis worsens, and layoffs and inflation accelerate nationwide. Having reliable and accessible transportation is critical for Salem residents to be able to get to work, get their kids to school, attend appointments, and secure needed resources. Jobs are on the line every time reductions to services are threatened. Some business owners argue that additional taxes are an unwelcome and unnecessary burden to doing business in Salem. For employers to complain about a potential minor loss in profit when opposing community services needed by their own customers and employees is short-sighted at best. Community members need reliable, safe, and affordable transportation. I support the proposed tax and look forward to the planned improvements and expansion of services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Tom Hoffert.
Good afternoon, evening, General Manager Pollock, Chair Hinosi Pressy, and members of the Cherriots Board. My name is Tom Hoffert, and I have the opportunity to serve as CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. Recently, our organization has come together with 5 other small business advocacy groups in our community, including the Keizer Chamber, West Salem Business Association, Mid-Valley Association of Realtors, Home Builders Association of Mary and Polk Counties, and SEDCOR. We've shared our concerns over the regarded Cherriots' proposed $39 million per year payroll tax. Our coalition members all agree our communities need safe, reliable public transit. But asking our small businesses to shoulder 100% of this cost is the wrong approach. Just 2 years ago, 82% of Salem voters rejected a city payroll tax. This Cherriots proposal risks repeating a similar outcome. Our coalition recently conducted a statistically valid survey of 434 Salem area likely voters. It revealed that if today an election were to be held, the vast majority of those voters, 62.2%, would oppose Cherriots' payroll tax on local businesses. We have copies of this and additional data from our polling, which we are happy to share with you this evening. This tax will cost the average Salem small business and Keizer small business an additional $3,500 per year. That is not to say anything of our larger employers. It will discourage businesses from growing and adding much-needed jobs. For consumers, they can expect higher prices, placing further financial strain on our most vulnerable citizens. What's worse, our residents will not be allowed to vote on your proposal. We acknowledge that Cherriots has the ability to impose taxes in statute, but we urge you to listen to the entire community, not just the 4% of residents who currently utilize Cherriots. Cherriots already collects $13 million per year from the state wage tax, which lawmakers are set to double when the legislature concludes a special session next week. That $13 million in additional fund is a huge amount and a huge increase for Cherriots to expand your services. Your proposal heaps on even more taxation, resulting in less pay for workers, fewer jobs, and reduced support for our local nonprofit organizations. So what are we asking? Short of this tax going to a vote of the people, we'd ask Cherriots to collaborate with the business community on smart, practical solutions that serve their riders with existing resources. Our members are ready and willing to work with you, offering their expertise towards a compromise that will improve local transit without drastically harming our local economy. That is precisely how, after the City of Salem's payroll tax failed at the ballot, we were able to collaborate with city leaders, and the result was a city's livability levy, which our organization endorsed and passed in this community. Collaboration is the only pathway forward. Thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to finding a common sense solution together.
Thank you. Next, I have Benjamin Freiback.
President Hinojosa and members of the board, my name is Benjamin Freiback and I live in Salem. I've lived in Oregon my whole life and I moved here 2 years ago for work. I'd like to think of myself as a fiscally minded individual, tightening my belt when things are hard and keeping it tight when things get better, as they will inevitably get tougher again. This is why I ride Cherriots. I've been riding the bus since I moved here to Salem. I've ridden it to work, downtown, to visit friends, to Oktoberfest out in Mount Angel, the train station, and points beyond. Every time I ride the bus, I see people, my fellow neighbors, Salemanders, getting to places they need to go. I once saw 3 strollers fit in the front half of a bus. Who knew that it could fit that many? I'm able to avoid the high cost of owning a vehicle, which is around $10,000 to $13,000 a year these days, because we have a transit system that meets my needs. I'm able to spend this savings at local businesses, on vacations, and hopefully a down payment on a home or a condo someday. I don't know if I'd be able to afford those things if my cost of living was significantly higher. The proposed service expansion and the associated 7/1,000ths of every dollar payroll tax doesn't just make my life easier, it makes life easier for the thousands of Salemanders struggling to make ends meet. Our transit service is pathetic on the weekends, and I can't take the bus to go shopping on the weekends. When I lived in South Salem, I rarely went downtown or to see shows at our theaters on the weekends because I wouldn't be able to take the bus home after 8 or 9 p.m. I would have loved to stay out later at local bars and restaurants. I spent an hour waiting for the bus at the train station in the cold, dark rain because it doesn't run frequently enough. The cost of this transit service is such that people in the lowest income bracket spend thousands of dollars a month on a car the second they get the chance because they can't live their lives without one. That is money leaving our community. That is money that they can't invest in businesses or in their future. There are other costs of this too. Denser development saves the money on infrastructure maintenance. It generates more tax revenue per person. It's not feasible when everyone drives. Builders have to spend more money on parking lots and garages, and property owners have to pay taxes on the unproductive land and maintain the parking facilities. Neighborhoods fill up with parked cars, and streets fill up with traffic, which are very expensive to widen. Salem needs more housing, and transit makes it easier and cheaper to build and serve with services. The benefits of transit aren't only realized to those who don't own a car, though. Transit allows people to save money on gas, parking, insurance, and wear and tear on their vehicle, and employers that have employees that may only use transit to get to work don't need to spend money on building or maintaining bigger parking lots. My partner owns a car, and she benefits from having the option of taking transit, as she has used it to visit friends, attend events downtown when parking is too difficult, and is able to rely on it for basic needs when her car is unavailable. But taking transit is more inconvenient for some of those needs due to the existing level of service. This would be greatly improved with enhanced weekend service and additional weekday service, allowing us to use the bus to shop at Winco on the weekend. I was just reading old copies of the Statesman Journal a few days ago. In 1892, the Salem Motor Company ran electric streetcars between the fairgrounds and South Commercial at Rule between 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. every 15 minutes every day. Maybe someday we can get that back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Betsy Vega.
Buenas tardes a todos. Gerente General Pollack, Presidente Hinojos, Presey y miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Betsy Vega, empresaria integrante de la comunidad de Salem. Me presento ante ustedes para colaborar con la alianza de la Cámara de Comercio del área de Salem, Cámara de Comercio de Keizer, la Asociación Empresarial de West Salem, la Asociación de Agentes Inmobiliarios de Mid Valley, la Asociación de Constructores de Vivienda de Condados de Marion Polk y SETCOR, para expresar nuestra preocupación compartida por el impuesto sobre la nómina de 39 millones anuales propuesto por Cherriots. Todos coincidimos que en nuestra comunidad se necesita el uso de transporte público seguro y confiable. Pero exigir a los pequeños negocios que asuman este costo es un enfoque equivocado. Tan solo hace 2 años, el 82% de los votantes de Salem rechazaron un impuesto sobre la nómina municipal. Esta propuesta corre el riesgo de repetirse ese mismo error. Lo cierto es que este impuesto le costará un promedio de $3,500 anuales a las pequeñas empresas de Salem-Keizer. Este impedirá crecimiento de las pequeñas empresas y crear empleos necesarios para su extensión económica. Los consumidores pueden esperar precios más altos ya que este costo se transcurre en la venta de los bienes. Esto aumentará la presión financiera sobre nuestros ciudadanos más vulnerables. Lo que es peor, esta vez ni siquiera tendrán derecho de voto directo. Reconocemos que Cherriots tiene la capacidad de imponer puestos por ley, pero lo instamos a escuchar a todos en la comunidad, no solo el 4% de los residentes que actualmente usan los servicios de Cherriots. La mayoría de los residentes se imponen a este impuesto y la carga que se les impondrá. Cherriots ya recauda 13 millones al año del impuesto estatal sobre la nómina, cantidad que las legislaciones probablemente duplicarán cuando la legislatura se reúne nuevamente en la próxima semana. Eso equivale a 26 millones. Este impuesto sobre la nómina se duplicará en un momento en que la inflación ya está afectando a las empresas y los empleados. Más impuestos significan menos salarios, menos empleos y menos apoyo a las organizaciones locales sin fines de lucro. Entonces, ¿qué pedimos? A menos que este impuesto se le someta a votación pública, Cherriots debería colaborar con la comunidad empresarial en soluciones inteligentes, prácticas para brindar un mejor servicio a los pasajeros con los recursos existentes. Nuestros miembros están listos y dispuestos para colaborar con usted, ofreciendo su experiencia para alcanzar un acuerdo que mejore el transporte público local sin perjudicar nuestra economía. Así es precisamente como, tras el fracaso de querer imponer más impuestos sobre la nómina de la ciudad de Salem, pedimos colaborar para encontrar propuestas eficientes, lo que resultó en el impuesto habitable de la ciudad aprobados por el principio de este año. La colaboración, no la competencia, es la clave del éxito. Gracias por su consideración. Esperamos encontrar una solución común para nuestra comunidad. Dios les bendiga y les dé sabiduría. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. ¿Podría compartir ese a nuestra clerk of the board para que podría dar una copia y traducirla para el resto de la mesa, por favor?
Claro que sí.
Gracias. I just asked to get a copy so that way the folks that don't speak Spanish could get a translated copy. And Paige Barton? No? Okay. Next, Mike Erdman?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mike Erdman, I'm the CEO of the Home Builders Association of Marion and Polk Counties. We represent about 600 small businesses throughout the greater Salem-Keizer region. 10 years ago, voters rejected a payroll tax for transit. Now this board, of course, is considering a proposal that's more than 3 times larger than that proposal 10 years ago. And it does not reflect the wishes of the folks that live and work in this community. We value public transit, very much so, and we recognize its importance, but the truth is we have a quality system in place. And in fact, I think it was your own data that was presented at the Chamber Forum a couple months ago that said the vast majority of the folks in this community are very happy with the service that the transit district provides. And Tom alluded to this earlier, but over the last 10 days, the business community commissioned a poll by one of the state's most respected pollsters. That poll was statistically valid. It accurately reflected the demographics of the community and accurately tested sentiment towards a business-paid tax. And the results were overwhelming. 62% of folks that were surveyed were opposed to a business-paid payroll tax, and little less than 27% were in support. Even when told the tax would add buses and routes and reduce congestion, voters still opposed it by a wide margin. And even the argument that Salem residents should have the same level of service as Eugene and Portland failed to sway residents. It was the same wide margin of opposition. The fact is, this proposal does not make Cherriots equal to Eugene or Portland. Neither Lane Transit in Eugene nor TriMet in Portland has a property tax for transit. Only Cherriots has imposed a property tax on the people who live here. So if this proposal was to be enacted, Cherriots would have 3 different taxes on citizens for the same service, 2 different taxes on wages and a property tax. Lane Transit, TriMet only have 2. And of course, as has been mentioned, the legislature is poised to double the employee-paid payroll tax next Monday, adding $13 million in additional funding. So of course, the question is, where do we go from here? My urging of you is that you pause and you sit down with the business community to see if we can hammer out a collaborative solution to improving our transit system. If you move forward with this tax, you put us in the position of referring it out to the voters. We did that with the payroll tax back in 2015. We did it with the city's payroll tax in 2023. And I think based on the track record that we have shown in winning those elections, along with the recent polling data that shows overwhelming opposition, we know, and I think you know as well, that we would win that election. That is not something we relish or look forward to. We do not want to run a campaign against the transit district. That serves nobody. Instead, again, we would urge you to pause, to sit down with the business community. Let's work together to identify solutions that strengthen transit while respecting the realities that local employers face. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Sean Nickus.
Hello, board members. I'm Sean Nickus. I'm a past board member of the Main Street Alliance, and I own several local businesses right here in Salem. And I do make payroll every 2 weeks. One of the keys, or the key to really to all small business successes, is sacrifice and planning. And I think they've seen a lot of planning going on here. We're going to turn 1 hour buses into half-hour buses. We're going to turn half-hour buses, like buses that come every half hour, into 15-minute buses. We're going to improve our routes on the weekends, and we're going to improve the routes in general, but especially weekend services. We're going to improve safety, and it's hard, to put a dollar sign on improved safety. There's going to be more downtown foot traffic, more opportunities for our citizens to use the library and the Center for 50+, more on-time employees, and more good jobs right here in Salem. So I think you've all done your job on the planning side of this, and so I'm willing to do my job on the sacrifice side of this. And I'm glad it's not going to fall on employees to pay this. They have enough little fees taken out of their paychecks I see every 2 weeks. I, on the other hand, am going to just get a new write-off. So I am here to support this measure and this new tax. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Jennifer Benavides.
Good evening, all. I am Jen Benavides, and I am on behalf of the Keizer Chamber. I am a board member there, and I'm here just to speak on behalf of the 425 business members that we have in Keizer. I would like to echo the rest of my peers that have been up here tonight and opposing this tax and hoping that we can come to the table and discuss it. If that would be grateful to all of the businesses, and we would hope for that. I could go on the same hitting points that we've already went on before, but when it comes down to it, the business community cannot take this hit. So I just wanted to represent Keizer by being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Bo May.
Hello, my name is Bo May, and I live in South Salem. I currently ride the bus at least 4 times a week for work, and next week when fall term starts at Chemeketa, I'll be using it to get to and from classes as well. Having access to public transit has been incredibly important for me as I'm earning my degree. I've lived in towns with buses that arrived at stops less frequently and took much longer, and it was often frustrating to have to adjust my plans around them, so I very much appreciate the existing schedule that Cherriots has in place. That being said, there is absolutely still room for improvement, and the proposed changes and new services would be a welcome step in the right direction. Most notably, later hours of operation would be a game changer for my ability to easily get to night shifts. It also seems likely that having the option to ride the bus home after a night out instead of needing to drop 20 or 30 bucks on a rideshare app would encourage safer behavior and discourage driving under the influence. An increased tax on businesses is well worth it for those expanded hours, not to mention the proposed improvements to the safety and accessibility accessibility of stops and frequency of bus arrivals. If citizens can't count on our employers to support our ability to get from place to place in a safe and affordable way, that represents a failure on their part to use the power they have for the things that actually matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Deanna Gwynn.
Good evening, Chair and board members. I had a script. I'm not going to read it. Instead, I want to read to you an article that was shared with me today that contrasts Akron, Ohio, and Salem. So you guys may have seen an article, or you may have seen, it was Eye on America. So I'll just read this to you. Salem, Oregon, and Akron, Ohio have a lot in common. Salem area is home to about 207,000 residents, Akron about 190. Salem-Keizer geography consists of 56 square miles. Akron is 61. Both run a transit district with operating revenues and expenses closely aligned. Both are committed to increasing ridership. That's where the difference begins. Salem Transit District is eyeing a significant tax increase to achieve more ridership. Currently, Cherriots receives about $16 million per year through local property taxes and another $13 from statewide taxes on workers' wages for $29 million in revenue for those sources. Cherriots has said it wants to increase that total to $82 million a year, an increase of 280%. $13 million more will come from doubling the tax on workers' wages in the legislature's transportation bill that is probably going to come to fruition next week. Cherriots then intends to institute a new tax on payroll wages in Salem-Keizer for another $39 million per year. Across the country, Akron's transit district was recently named the top mass transit district in the country. Last year, it grew ridership by 24% to 5.34 million rides per year from about 4.03 million. That's triple the national average. Salem stood at 3.5 million rides last year. In a telephone interview from her office in Akron, Ohio, the Metro CEO, Don Distler, said their success came without any new revenue, No one is going to give us any more money, she laughed. We had to make really hard decisions. We did it from a business perspective. What routes are doing the best and which ones are doing the worst? We decided to take our existing resources and put these resources where the most people were using the system. We increased frequency on the best routes to every 15 minutes. Distler acknowledged that those few riders using underperforming routes weren't enthusiastic about the change. We had some areas, but what they had a creative solution to this. They created 3 zones outside of the prime service area and allowed riders to call for a ride for $5, and they could go basically anywhere within that service area. So I'm just asking that you guys think outside the box and not tax our citizens. We can't afford it.
Thank you. Allison Hissey.
Thank you. My name is Allison Heisey. I'm in favor of this tax because there are really great services that Cherriots provides, but our bus system is unfortunately currently unusable for me, and I know that there is room for improvement. I am physically disabled, I'm unemployed, and my car broke down 2 years ago after I sank $4,000 into it. I'm extremely privileged and lucky to have a partner with a car that I can borrow while my partner is able to utilize the bus. I was disappointed to hear that there are those in the business community and Chamber of Commerce who are opposed to increasing access to these services. I understand this is a plan many years in the making, and I would like to see follow through. Increasing access to the bus system would improve my ability to get employed in Salem, as well as improve my ability to spend money around Salem. Something as simple as halfway seating at my nearest bus stop would help. Taking the bus is also significantly safer and cheaper than driving. I understand there are 2 counties Salem is sandwiched between who have successfully implemented a tax like this for years without detriment to their businesses. And I support this tax because our state capital deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Sherry Shaw.
Good evening. I am here to speak not just as a business owner, but someone who is fed up with how the small businesses in the city are treated. We are constantly told that we are the backbone of the city, and we are. But how much weight do you expect the backbone to carry before it snaps? Taxes, fees, regulation, and now yet another payroll tax increase to fund Cherriots, a transit system that already has a massive budget. It's not sustainable. Here's what many seem to forget. Small businesses don't just employ people. We feed the community in ways that big box corporations never will and that others don't see. Just last week, my husband came home with a box of over 100 candy bars. And I asked him, what are you doing? Where did all these candy bars come from? And he told me that there were some local kids who came by from the school and had a fundraiser. So of course he bought them, all of them. And he will every time, and so will I. Small businesses are the ones that support the Boy Scouts when they come. They support the church groups. They support the school band. We support all of these other parts of the community, not just the people that we employ. When was the last time you saw a giant corporation go to your children's band concert and support them? They don't. Your small businesses do. We're the ones who show up. We do it because this is our home and because we care about it. But here's the thing. We can't keep supporting all of these things. You can't continue to squeeze small businesses and think that we are still going to survive. I have so many folks that I know who have closed up shop because what might seem like just another few bucks is the breaking point for somebody. If you continue to tax us more and more, there is going to be less and less of us. My husband and I started our business a little over a year ago because we wanted to truly do right by the community. We wanted to have an alternative for folks going to a big box dealership. We own a small car repair business. And at this point, we make far less money than we did when we actually worked our 9-to-5 jobs. Far less. I don't even get a paycheck because my money goes to support my 4 employees and my outstanding water bill, which is extravagant because of all the taxes and extra fees there. Continuing to ask more and more and more from us just makes us all disappear. And then there's nobody left to squeeze. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Luna Meising.
Hello, good evening. My name is Luna Metzing. I moved to Salem 2 years ago. I actually haven't taken the buses here yet. I have used the bus system in towns previous to moving here. I think the biggest barrier right now to me using the bus system is the the times in which that I'm able to get on the buses. Usually when I'm trying to go out and about, it's later in the evening. Just this past week, a lot of my friends went out drinking, and I was planning on going to spend, money on local businesses. And I was not able to attend because I found that they were using Lyfts instead, and I don't have phone service. And so not being able to access the internet unless I'm connected to Wi-Fi, which isn't always a guarantee at businesses, my choices are really limited. And so I am in support for the tax and to expand our transit system, to be able to give back to the businesses and be able to enjoy the community that I've moved to. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Castro Monroy.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Castro Monroy. I'm a Salem resident. And I'd like to first start by congratulating Cherriots. You have already built a system that meets the needs of our community. Thank you for that. I'm here today to defend the families, the workers, and the immigrants who normally don't have a voice in this type of rooms. We are told this is a payroll tax. This payroll tax is a business tax. But the truth is that costs always get passed down. Wages freeze, hours get cut, prices rise, and the ones who feel it the most are the most vulnerable. The very same people we as a community are supposed to protect. Let's be clear. This is not a business tax. This is a workers' tax. This is a family's tax. This is an immigrant's tax. Every dollar taken will trickle down onto the single mom choosing between rent and groceries, the senior living on a fixed income, stretching medicine just to survive, the immigrant family like mine who works hard, pays in, but is always first in line to sacrifice, and without a say. Just look around this room here. You'll see a lot of good people here today. Good-looking people. But the truth is that, and you know, this does not represent our entire community. And people feel betrayed because they have already spoken. Someone's getting sued. As I was saying, people feel betrayed because they have already spoken. In 2015, they said no. In 2023, they said no. Different details, but the message has remained the same. People reject payroll taxes, and yet politicians and unelected boards keep pushing them. With respect, I've heard the claim that this is supposed to help the most in need by giving them more bus rides. But if we're really trying to help the most in need, how can we allow for the heaviest burden to fall on their backs? That is not justice. And if what you say is true, that there is public support, I ask you to please prove it. Put this up for a ballot. You see, this is never about business or government. This is always about the powerful versus the vulnerable. And I choose to stand with our most vulnerable. And I also invite you to do the same. So I urge you, please protect workers. Please protect families. Please protect seniors. And please put this on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Hunkin.
Hello, thank you, board members, for being here today to listen to us. And I want to thank the 1,000-mile member drivers for being there to support us and keep us safe, because that's really what you guys do here at Cherriots. I don't own a business. I do own a house in South Salem. We are a single-car family. My husband is an electrician, and he spends his days out working. And I do rely on the bus system to get around. I have narcolepsy. It's not always safe for me to be driving a physical vehicle on the road. And I have been in Ubers and Lyfts with drivers who are unsafe, who have been untested, who have run 3 to 4 red lights while I'm in the back of the car, saying things, asking them to stop. And they don't have to, because they're not certified, they're not licensed, they're not kept safe. The way your drivers are taught and the way that they care about the people in the back of their vehicle is something that I can't get no matter how much money I pay Lyft, no matter how much money I pay Uber. They don't care about me as a person. And Cherriots has proven again and again that its drivers do, that they're there for me to be safe. And I approve of this payroll tax because I would love to have a safer bus stop. I would love to have a safe bus stop with covering so that I can be there in the rain. It's the Willamette Valley. We rain often. It's lovely, but I have yet to find a place where I don't get soaked waiting to get on the bus. Sometimes I get off the bus and there are 4 or 5 out light bulbs, and I'm walking in the dark on a back road by myself. And I know it may not be scary to people who feel like they own parts of this town, people who have lots of money or vehicles to drive around, men who feel like they aren't going to be stepped to. But as a small, young woman who often travels on her own through this town, I like to feel safe on Cherriots. And I love everything that you do for me and for our town, so thank you.
Thank you. Savannah Petrovic.
Hello, Madam President and Chair. I ask that you give me your forgiveness, as this is not as cleaned and polished as everyone else's. I'm Savannah. I'm 18 years old. I recently got a job here in Salem, of which took me 10 months to get. Employment is already incredibly low, and I appreciate that you give us transportation to get to and from work. However, I work for a small business, as many people in Salem do. It's where a lot of work comes from. The small businesses are more willing to hire those in their community to support their community. Putting this tax in would lower employment, and it would make it incredibly harder for people to get jobs, get hired, and use your transportation to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Felix May.
Hello. My name is Felix May. I live in Salem, 97302. I relied on public transit in college, and like just speaking personally, I would not have been able to attend a meeting like this when I relied heavily on public transit. There was just too much going on in my life. There were so many things that were so stressful, and I think we're hearing from a lot of people today, some of which have very obviously relied on public transit in their lives and others who have not. And I think that that is very evident in the speakers. The people who need the bus the most are very likely unable to attend a meeting like this to speak for themselves because of all kinds of barriers. And I think that this tax would make, obviously, like expand service. And so then folks would be more likely to be able to attend something like this. Yeah, this is a tax that uplifts and supports all members of our community, particularly the folks who are most vulnerable and need it the most. I personally really love the idea of a downtown circulator. I have a toddler, And getting around downtown is just really not possible for us. Like, if you like park, you have to like walk all over if you want to go to a couple different places. So I think the downtown circulator is very cool. It would definitely make me personally more able to spend more time and more money on the small businesses downtown. Especially if it included the library, that would be like a dream for my toddler. That's the best. I voted against the payroll tax. I haven't lived in Salem since like 2015 or whatever the like older one that they're quoting is, but I voted against the more recent payroll tax that City Council tried to pass. I know that I did so because I felt that it included things that didn't need additional funding. And I know that the voters that I have spoken to, I don't know where the polling's coming from. I wasn't polled personally. But all the people I know who are voters would vote in support. I hope you guys don't have to put it on the ballot because this is obviously a public good that should just like be fine. But if you have to, I don't think that it's as bad as some folks are saying that it is. Yeah, I just thank you so much for your time. I'm really excited to see what this tax will do to support our neighbors. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Pam Fondrick?
Good evening, General Manager Pollock and President Pressey. My name's Pam Fondrick, and my husband Tim and I are small business owners in Salem who serve and interact with local businesses every day. While we value public transportation and the access that it provides, I'm speaking in opposition to funding new improvements through an employer-paid payroll tax. We see it daily. Small businesses are already under enormous strain. Rising costs for rent, insurance, utilities, combined with multiple state and local taxes, are all having a tremendous toll. Cash flow is tight, and many are simply trying to survive. If you've never had to sit down and figure out how to make payroll each month on top of it all, it's hard to understand the pressure and grit it takes to keep a business alive in today's economy. Adding another tax on gross payroll, regardless of profitability, only deepens that burden. This proposal will force difficult choices: reducing staff, cutting hours, raising prices, or relocating outside the transit district. None of these outcomes benefit employees, customers, or our community. Restaurants will be especially hit hard. They already operate on razor-thin margins, facing rising food and supply costs, fewer customers, and ongoing staffing challenges. On top of payroll taxes, income taxes, licensing fees, and in some cases, the corporate activity tax, this new payroll tax could force many to close or relocate, taking jobs, gathering spaces, and part of our community's culture with them. Public transportation is important. Placing the burden of funding the proposed new improvements solely on businesses, however, is not fair or sustainable solution. Nor does it encourage new businesses to locate here, which is not good for our community or future local economic health. I urge you to reject this payroll tax and explore broader, more equitable funding options. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I have Daryl Knox.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Daryl Knox, and I've served the Salem community for about 30 years as a CPA and a tax professional. And I'm, pretty intimately aware of the taxes imposed on businesses, on my business and my clients. And I'd just like you to consider the current burden of taxes on our businesses and our workers when you consider the appropriate rate for this tax. There's federal income tax, federal unemployment tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax, state income tax, state minimum corporate tax, state corporate activities tax, state unemployment tax, state transit tax, real property tax, personal property tax, state industrial property tax, and many other licenses, fees, and permits. Public transit, I do value as a key part of a healthy community. But I just encourage you to appreciate the burden of taxes that are already on our businesses, and understand that I also work with a lot of business owners in the Portland area, and those businesses are mobile. And there's been a lot of businesses that have exited Portland and Multnomah County because of some of the things that have been imposed there. So just encourage you to appreciate that as you consider the rate for this tax. Thank you.
Thank you. TJ Sullivan?
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak truth to power. Excuse me, sorry. The easiest person to deceive is yourself. To find a board where everyone has deceived themselves is pretty remarkable. Lie number one is this, that the Salem community wants and needs this. If this is something that is truly to the benefit of the whole Salem community, then everybody should have a hand in paying for it. But I think you know that if you went out to the community to ask them to help pay for this, that it would not happen. Lie number two is that this is going to be good for business. If it was, we would be here in support of it. However, we know that this is going to affect the most vulnerable in the jobs. We've mentioned the restaurants in our industry. They are just now digging their way out of COVID. A lot of them are still losing money. If you add one more bill on top of their ongoing expenses, who do you think is going to get removed from employment? Do you think it's going to be the seasoned vet who's making a living wage? Or do you think it's going to be the most recent hire who is just trying to make ends meet? I'm guessing it's going to be the latter. That hurts the most vulnerable in our community. Lie number three is that this is not going to impact the nonprofits in our community. Chair Pressey, you've mentioned several times that you're new to our community, and your first observation upon getting here is, where are all the buses? You need a new set of friends, because your first observation should have been, we have an impressive collection of nonprofits in this community that are supported in large measure by the businesses in our community. Those nonprofits exist to help the least of these, our brothers and sisters. And when you implement a payroll tax like this and take $39 million out of the business community, that is going to have a true impact on our nonprofits and leave them in a worse position to help those people in our community that need it the most. Finally, I would just say that every bad decision that has come out of this community in the last 30 years has been started with the progressives in our community. Peter Courtney knew this, and that's the reason why he wanted to see business people on your board. And I would recommend that you move forward with an alternative that includes business people collaborating with you. We've already proven that we can do that, so that we can take care of the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you.
Next is Chris Cummings.
Good evening. I'll keep mine a little bit brief because you're going to hear a lot of the same thing, I think. So, good evening, board members. I am a small business owner of a company over 40 years. I strongly oppose this employer-paid payroll tax for the Cherriots. It's increasingly harder and harder to do business in Salem, and this is another shot at trying to survive. I was told by a board member recently that this tax is not needed to cover any shortfalls, but it's only meant to expand the system. Yet neither my employees, including those who work out of state, nor my customers would see any benefit from going to and from the office. Instead, this would take money away from the local charities and the community events that my business already supports. It also forces businesses like mine to raise prices, which ultimately hurts the customers, or see businesses ultimately go out of business, or better yet, maybe even leave the city. Then you won't have any tax to tax them because they're gone. So let's not forget that even this would be even a third tax that we're already paying for public transportation. I believe this approach is unnecessary, harmful to small business, and it removes our choice as community members to decide how we best support local nonprofits. I don't oppose what the Cherriots offers currently, but I'm sure there's another, better way to fund the service expansion with mechanisms closer to those who use it. Otherwise, the cost will trickle down to everyone, even the folks that ride and drive the bus. We've seen it happen before. I respectfully ask you to reject this tax. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Zach Thomas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Thomas. I have been in Salem since the 90s, grown up here and built my business here for 20 years to do events. I have been called a canary in a coal mine from time to time because, as you might imagine or think back 5 years, one of the first things to shut down when things went south was COVID and all that. As it was just pointed out, these businesses in our area are having a lot of problems. They are not hiring. They are not growing. They are stagnant and fearful position right now. They are in waiting. A couple of things I wanted to point out to you here is not just that everybody needs to have an understanding of what this would cost, but an average of about $3,500 per business. I mean, that is a lot. That's a lot, and it's enough to get a lot of people in a room here a little bit riled up. But we do all value and we want Cherriots here. It was spoken of a while ago how in 1900 we had electric buses. The average wage in Salem at that point was only $1.75 per day at that time. The bus cost 5 cents to get onto that ride at the time. Our average wage here is now about $250 a day, and we don't know exactly what it's going to cost when this new tax kicks in. But it sounds like we're going to be spending somewhere around $350 per ride the first years out the gate, which is, for that price, we can afford to give, some of our speakers back here, like Mr. Fryback and Bo, or Benjamin and Felix, who ride the bus. We could almost buy them all new cars from the community and certainly pay for Ubers at this point, plus give them $150 or $200 to spend at the local business down there instead of pay for that ride. So my message is the canary in the coal mine here is that Salem is fragile right now. The businesses are under a lot of pressure, and when people are in a fearful state and they see things like this that come up, there is the side that comes up that is ready to remove Cherriots and seek out other solutions to begin with. They're already going up. Minimum wage is up 33% since 2020. A paid leave Oregon was a new 1% payroll tax since 23. Insurance cost is skyrocketing out of control, not just on homes, but businesses especially too, and even the nonprofits here are facing the squeeze. The businesses will go to Albany, Dallas, Staten, Almsville, where rent's a little cheaper already, and they don't have to pay this, but can still service the area, and Salem's gonna miss out on all of that. We need you to be able to provide affordable rideship to people and get them to the places where they need to be, but not expand the services, which don't sound like they're working super well for some of the riders already. We need to get that back into the wheelhouse of where we're really serving everybody appropriately, so we don't risk the businesses, the people leaving, the empty real estate downtown, and the increase in crime that comes down with the people who fill those vacancies when that happens. We need to find our return of investment. We don't really know, but $39 million in tax and $300 to $400 per new ride, it's just a little wild and out of control for our little small community. The fares that people pay, it's just 5% of Cherriots, $155 million budget. We haven't had a public vote, and I think the reason why is because the last one was shut down 82 to 18. That's just our priorities, and it's nobody's fault. Everybody's great. I can't believe that some people are here for 20 years with 1,000,000 miles. I mean, that's awesome, and that shows like how good and valuable of an organization we have here. Nobody wants you to leave. Nobody wants, everybody wants to focus their bandwidth on just livability and serviceability and just being able to have a home. So 100 years ago when the bus was 5 cents to ride and a fraction of the daily wage, people could buy homes, but now it's an issue all across the board. Everybody's feeling the squeeze. So I think we just need to have an honest conversation about how we're utilizing the money, how a government-appointed board, directly by the governor itself, that has nothing to do with the citizens, how the citizens could, in this time in the crazy world, have a lot to say against that. Like, we just want everything to go well, and that's my message today, that we need to serve our community, and we need to serve our businesses, and we need to help our nonprofits. We need to get people to work and just have a rational conversation about the budget itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Preston Mann?
Good evening, members of the Salem Area Mass Transit Board of Directors. For the record, I am Preston Mann, Director of External Affairs for Oregon Business and Industry. OBI is a Salem-based trade association representing businesses from a wide variety of industries from each of Oregon's 36 counties. Our 1,600 member companies, more than 75% of which are small businesses, employ more than 250,000 Oregonians. We are proud to have our headquarters here in Salem. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comments today regarding the proposal to establish a payroll tax on businesses within the transit district. OBI opposes this prospective tax increase due to the significant burden it will place on area employers at a time when the collective tax burden is already limiting private sector growth. While our members support mass transit and recognize the need for investment in transportation infrastructure, a new payroll tax risks harming the very economic base that creates the jobs and economic activity that supports transit funding in the first place. Local economies like Salem and others included in the Salem Mass Transit District do not operate in a vacuum. They are the product of tax and regulatory decisions made at the federal, state, and local level, as well as inflation and other economic factors. Any new tax policies must be considered with this entire perspective in mind. This is a difficult time for small businesses. Operational costs have increased dramatically, and Oregon's business tax burden continues to grow at an unsustainable rate. A recent study commissioned by OBI's foundation and conducted by Ernst & Young found that Oregon's state business taxes increased by $3.4 billion, or 77%, between 2019 and 2023. It's one of many reasons Oregon's ranking in CNBC's annual Top States for Business survey dropped to 39th in 2025, a 22-spot decline in just 2 years. As you know, and has been referenced several times tonight, the legislature is currently considering a $4.3 billion transportation funding package that includes a variety of gas tax and fee increases, as well as a doubling of the statewide transit tax. These revenue increases, too, must be contemplated within the context of local tax measures. It would be imprudent for this board to immediately layer an additional tax increase on top of such a substantial legislative revenue package. Local employers at this time simply cannot afford it. Finally, we recognize any legislative act adopted by this board, including a payroll tax, is potentially subject to a voter referendum. OBI led the effort to refer the Salem payroll tax in 2023, ultimately culminating in the community voting to repeal the tax by a more than 63% margin. We encourage the board to be mindful of that outcome within the context of any future payroll tax increases. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Azucena Alvarez?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Azucena Álvarez. Soy dueña de un pequeño negocio y trabajo bastante aquí en Salem. Como muchos empresarios hispanos, Trabajo día y noche para cubrir la nómina, pagar impuestos y mantener abiertas las puertas de mi negocio. Por eso me preocupa mucho el nuevo impuesto sobre la nómina que propone Cherriots. No se trata de estar en contra del transporte público, claro que lo necesitamos, pero poner esta carga sobre los pequeños negocios es injusto. No es justo. Este impuesto significa menos oportunidades para contratar empleados, menos posibilidades de crecer y más presión sobre quienes apenas estamos saliendo adelante. Les pido que trabajen con pequeños empresarios como yo para encontrar soluciones que apoyen el transporte público sin poner la carga sobre nuestros hombros. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Good afternoon. My name is Azucena Alvarez, and I'm a business owner. Like many Hispanic entrepreneurs, I work tirelessly to meet payroll, pay taxes, and keep my business moving forward. That is why I'm deeply concerned about the new payroll tax proposed by Cherriots. We all understand the need of public transportation, but placing this burden on small business is not the right solution. For me, this tax means fewer opportunities to create jobs, less ability to grow, and more pressure on those of us working hard to build something for our families and our community. I ask you to work with small business owners like me to find solutions that support public transit without putting that burden on our shoulders. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Muller? Miller, yes, maybe I might have pronounced your last name wrong.
Kind of sounded like Mueller, so I wasn't really sure.
Looks like Muller.
Yes, my name's John Miller, and let me find my notes here. So first, I wanted to acknowledge the board's efforts to communicate. I enjoyed a little bit of time at Ross in West Salem with Sarah, and so I appreciate you graciously listening to my concerns. There's lots to object to about this whole thing, but I want to focus my comments to just one of those concerns, kind of tied to something that Sarah said in our conversation where you made the comment that one of your concerns was, is this process democratic? And so I just want to understand how this democratic process works, because we had an election a few years ago, as has been mentioned a few times, and in that election, this tax was defeated fairly substantially. And then Senator Courtney, kind of the great and powerful legislative Wizard of Oz here in Salem, intimidated the Dorothy and Toto of the Chamber of Commerce into going along with this plan to sunset the elected board and replace it with an appointed board, appointed by a very unpopular governor. And then give that board the power to impose this tax simply with the vote of a few people based on the heartfelt, admittedly, but desire of a relatively very, well, not relatively, very small percentage of the overall population. And so my comment is, a request is simply that you look at this for what it is, and as been suggested a few times tonight, that you put this to a vote of the community. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any other public comment in reference to the service enhancement service and payroll tax online? Okay, because I think now I'm going to move over to our friends at the ATU. And up first is Joshua.
Hello. And thank you for having us here. We had a small band out there. I'm sure you've seen. I wanted to kind of bring some light to who we are. I'm representing the small but important group of paratransit drivers that subcontract through Cherriots. We provide the transportation for Salem's elderly and people with disabilities throughout the city. So we're extremely hardworking employees, and we don't get much fanfare. We don't get fancy jackets or checks for our millions of miles. But what we don't ask for that. But what we do want is fair wages and livable wages that we can provide for our families. And currently, MTM is our middleman, our contractor through you guys, and they have not been willing to negotiate fairly with us on getting that fair wage. And we would hope that you would use your position as the company, the clientele, to maybe remind them that the people that operate the service that they're managing are important, and they need fair wages and fair compensation for the work we do. And I think that's about it. We need living wages, just like the city's most vulnerable people need transportation. That's it.
Thank you. And lastly, I have, I believe, Barton. Is there a Barton Wood in here? No? Okay. Well, I think that is the last of our public comments, and I'm going to give folks about like a 8-minute break, just because we're not used to having this much public comment. Thank you everyone for joining tonight, and we'll reconvene at 7 p.m. All righty, everyone, thank you for coming back. Now this moves us into our consent calendar.
I'd like to make
Yes,
a motion
Go
to
ahead.
adopt the consent calendar.
all right, we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously by all those present. Thank you very much. And that moves us to our action items. 6A, award of contract for installation of depot charging equipment and infrastructure. General Manager.
Yes, I'd ask our maintenance manager, Zach Lee, to please come forward.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. I come before you tonight to ask for authorization for the general manager to enter into a contract with EC Electric for the installation of the depot charging equipment and infrastructure with a project amount not to exceed $137,450. So this might sound familiar to you. Tom was here last month for the hardware side of it. This is for the installation and the labor to do that and the wire and all that stuff and all the fittings. So with that, I move that the board authorize general manager to enter into a contract with EC Electric for the installation of depot charging equipment infrastructure, a project amount not to exceed $137,450. With that, I'd answer any questions if you guys have any.
Do folks have any questions or comments? Yes?
Yeah, I just want to be real clear. This project is part of the work that's 80% funded through federal capital funds, correct?
Correct. I believe so. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions or comments, would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with EC Electric for the installation of depot charging equipment and infrastructure with a project amount not to exceed $137,450.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? No? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, and next is adopting the district's 2025 climate action plan. General Manager.
Yes, I'll ask Bobby Kidd, our Strategic Initiatives Administrator, please come forward and present the report.
Hi, good evening, President and Host Pressy, and members of the board. I am so thrilled to be here this evening to bring forth the Cherriots Climate Action Plan, the very first climate action plan. This process and plan has been a partnership with Cherriots and Cumming Group, the consultant who has been helping us through this process over the last year. There we go. Okay, so I will walk us through a condensed version of this journey of how we got to be here tonight by highlighting the climate action plan, or I might refer to it as CAP throughout the evening, the components, timeline, engagement, the survey. And I will dig into a bit of the plan to highlight it. And then I'll wrap up with what's next if it were to be adopted this evening, and of course, any questions at the end. The three components that guided the goals and strategies found within the plan that is attached in the board packet started with a comprehensive policy overview and greenhouse gas emissions projections. It's important to note the policy review included Cherriots policies and documents as well as regional and local guidance. This aided in the climate vulnerability assessment as well as both internal and external engagement throughout every step of the process. And all of these things combined help shape this comprehensive climate action plan. Am I controlling this?
You are. It's
Oh,
very slow.
okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you. So this timeline reflects the last year of work, and though we are at the end of this arrow, which represents the planning development stage, there is still so much work left to do, and I might add exciting work left to do. during the implementation process. If the plan is adopted this evening, I will elaborate more on what that's going to look like after going forward in just a moment.
Bobby, will you just let me take over?
Of course, yes. There we go, thank you. A large part of the last year or so was spent listening and engaging with stakeholders both internally and externally. There was the visioning stage, the strategizing stage, public comment, a short survey, and community partner workshops. I would like to thank every single individual and or group listed on this list, on the slide, for their time, effort, and input. The thoughtful commentary and feedback was crucial in making this planning process a success, including the board's input, so thank you very much. We put out a public visioning survey several months ago, and though you have already seen these results, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight just a couple of the results from the results again. We shared the survey through the Cherriots social media pages, sandwich boards, Opus slides, flyers, and email newsletter, and had 137 responses. Something to know about the 137 responses is this was in placement of an in-person workshop or in-person meeting, and so we were anticipating 6 to 12 people in person. So 137 was far greater of a number, making sure that the feedback was accessible and equitable for those who couldn't come in person. Something else to note from the survey results is that 46% were concerned about the impacts of climate change and 19% were somewhat concerned. 95% reported that they experienced some sort of extreme weather, and 33% said that extreme weather had impacted their decision to ride with Cherriots. Thank you. One of the last pieces of stakeholder engagement was the public comment period. We appreciated every single piece of feedback we received, and it was during this time I was actually able to attend and present at the City of Salem City Council Climate Action Plan Committee, that's a mouthful, to update them on the CAP planning process and invited them to provide public comment as well. So there are 3 key approaches found inside the plan, that's included in the board packet. Those 3 key approaches are direct emission reductions, behavioral change, focusing on increasing ridership, and infrastructural and community-wide climate adaptation and resilience. So those lead into our 7 goals, which is on the next slide. And in the plan found on pages 26 through 28, there are goals listed under these 7 categories, which is ridership, fleet diversification, infrastructure resilience, marketing, partnerships, showing progress, and operational sustainability. If the plan is adopted this evening by the board, there are steps in place for what is next. First, continued communication around the plan, both internally and externally, is important. There will be a steering committee established that will be responsible for implementing this plan. Similar to the strategic plan, there will be specific actions identified, worked on, and reported on throughout the year. In the corner on the slide, this is an example of what the plans would entail for specific actions around strategies. So again, the plan itself has the 7 goals, strategies underneath each one, and then there's going to be actions associated that will be reported on and worked on throughout the year. All right. I am so hot. I'm so sorry. 9 months pregnant here. I'm going to use the card. So to the end, So to end, staff recommends that the board adopt the district's 2025 Climate Action Plan as presented in Attachment A to advance a more sustainable future for the Salem-Keizer community. I would love to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions or comments? And if so, please keep them brief. I remember what it was like being 9 months pregnant and poor Bobby.
And I would like to do a quick shout out before questions. I'm so sorry. We were supposed to, with Coming Group, bring this for adoption next month. Because of circumstances, we were able to bring it this month because of a lot of hard work and collaboration. So shout out to Coming Group, shout out to the implementation planning team. It's been a lot of hard work getting this to you all.
Thank you. Yes, Director Laura Midkiff.
Thank you, Administrator Kidd, for your presentation, for all your hard work with the coming group and all the stakeholders who've been a part of this process. I think this is, in my short 2 years here on the board, one of the more exciting developments that I've seen come together, and I'm really anxious to see it operationalized in service of our communities. I think, though we didn't go into all the details of it, and this isn't our first time seeing it, but the final report does note that we're going to see potentially as bad as 13-degree Fahrenheit increases by 2100. And so, and this was along with flooding and colder temperatures as well in the extremists. And so, if nothing else, this sets us up into a position of being able to plan for that extreme potential outcome and all the intermediary steps that will impact our riders and our service. And so, I think you've left us in a better position than we were previously, and I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Yes, Director Duncan.
Thank you so much for pushing this out. I'll try to keep it brief. I mostly just wanted to highlight that this is us trying to keep our promise to the city when they passed their climate action plan and their goals, and knowing how much we had to increase ridership if we were going to hold up our end of the bargain. Otherwise, if we don't meet our goals, they can't meet their goals. So I'm just really appreciative to everybody who's put this together. This is truly like a labor of love for the community that we live in, and our duty to do as much collaboration as we can with other governmental entities and making sure that we can show up in the ways that the community has asked us to show up. This is a beautiful plan. You always put together beautiful plans, truly. And I love all of the very clear deliverables. I love all of the follow-ups. And I really love, I even put a little heart next to the communication piece, because we can do cool things all we want, but if we don't tell people about them, they have no idea what we've done. So I think that the communication piece is crucial. To me, I appreciate Joaquin uplifting the temperature difference, but I'm going to go pretty much exactly one sentence further, because what jumped out to me was by 2050, our area is expected to experience 24 days per year exceeding 92.3 degrees Fahrenheit. If you've ever stood at a bus stop for 15 to 20 minutes in direct sunlight, you can imagine what that feels like. I've done it more than once, and I cannot imagine having to, 24 days a year. That's crazy. I have to alter my outfits when I'm wearing the types of shoes I have. I've started carrying an umbrella, not just when it's raining, but also when it's sunny, because I've gotten sunburnt just on my walk home more than once. So this is really important to protecting our community for the long haul. And I just appreciate kind of that theme tonight of us talking about the long-term future of our community and what the best things are to do. And I'm just excited to see this come to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you. And to speak to the partnership with the City of Salem, I would like to thank them especially. They have been through part of this through every step of the way. Every single meeting we had in regards to stakeholders, they were there. So they really showed up, and I appreciated it. Thank you.
Director Davidson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Administrator Kidd. Thank you very much for all the hard work here. I wanted to echo something that Director Duncan said, which was that for the City of Salem to meet their climate goals, they will need to quadruple ridership. That is noteworthy, particularly in the context that we are talking. I, however, want to note that that is a goal that the City of Keizer and Marion County have also adopted as part of their climate-friendly area plan. And so we have now 4 local governments, us, Keizer, Salem, and Marion County, who are on the record in official government documents indicating that we want to see a quadrupling of ridership. I have certain ideas of how we can achieve that. I would love to see alternatives proposed if they do not believe or if they do not agree with my proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Madam President, I have a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that the board adopt the district's 2025 climate action plan as presented in attachment A to advance a more sustainable future for the Salem-Keizer community.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I think I will also just give kudos. Thank you for all your hard work and for putting this beautiful project report together as well.
Thank you. It was a great collaboration, great teamwork, and I appreciate all of your guys' support, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay.
Have your baby now.
Yeah, you're free to go now. Okay, that moves us into our informational reports.
Oh, yes, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay. 7A, fiscal year 25 annual performance report. General Manager.
Yeah, I ask our Chief Planning and Development Officer, Shofi O. Azum, to please come forward.
Good evening, President Inahos Percy and other Board of Directors. I'm here to present our FY25 annual performance report. Thank you for pulling this up. Let me try. It will work. Okay, all right. Thank you. Fiscal year 2025 was truly a year of advancement for Cherriots. We saw overall ridership growth across our system, and our contactless fare payment system, known as UMO, has made the fare payment system for our riders very convenient and user-friendly. And our on-time performance continues to improve with the deployment and adoption of new technology, and which leads to customer experience has been elevated through real-time prediction tools that helps riders travel with confidence. With that being said, I would like to highlight a few other additional projects, and one of that is battery electric bus revenue service. We started in late 2024, and it is still in service and operational, and one of the biggest milestones for us, for the agency. Cherriots planning team have started the comprehensive operations analysis. We do this every few years. The goal is to analyze if we can improve our system's efficiency and effectiveness. And our goal is to complete this project in fiscal year 2026. We have also completed late in May and June of 2025 the bus stop amenities inventory that includes the assessment of each and every bus stops. So we have about 800 bus stops in our whole systems, and our team have analyzed each and every bus stops, trying to understand what kind of bus stop amenities we have, their condition, and whether or not they're ADA accessible. So the good thing is we have the whole inventory digitally, so it's really a huge accomplishment for us. And our team is working on analyzing the data, and we'll prepare a report later this year. And as part of the ongoing performance report improvement, throughout the fiscal year 2025, we have added new information to improve our performance reporting, and that includes addition of new KPIs. And I'm going to explain to that while I'm speaking to that. One of the key things that we track to measure the system performance is ridership. And in the last year, fiscal year 2025, Cherriots delivered about 3.6 million rides, which is about 3.3% higher than fiscal year 2024. Our ridership is on the rise. For the last 5 years, we have seen consistent increase of ridership. And our current ridership in fiscal year 2025 is about 17% higher than the pre-COVID ridership level, and which is very promising. And we're proud of our service planning team and operations team as well to deliver these world-class services. Another piece is our system performance is boarding per revenue hour, how many people we move every revenue hour throughout the span of service. On the weekdays, we have a total of 6 routes that have exceeded our target. Our target for weekdays is 20 boardings per revenue hour. Those are the 6 routes that have exceeded our target. That means they're performing really well, and there is high demand for transit in those areas. The only change here is Route 3. It was not in the last year list, so this is the new addition. Route 3 is performing really well throughout the fiscal year 2025. and all the other routes were also in the previous year list as a top performing routes. On the weekdays, the productivity is about 15.2, which means throughout the span of service on the weekdays, we move about, we have about just little over 15 rides, and especially in the peak hours, you have higher, in the lower end, you have lower, but average, we have about 15 trips, which is pretty good compared to the similar size transit agency. On the Saturdays, we have about total 5 routes exceeded the target, and then the Route 5 is the new addition. Last year we had Route 3, but that didn't make the list this year for Saturdays. You know, the Saturdays we have lower level of service compared to the weekdays, lower frequency, lower span of hours. And the ridership per revenue hour dropped slightly, but still in the ballpark compared to the weekdays. On Sunday, only 3 routes have exceeded our target, and it's the same as last year, and pretty much the same routes like we had last year, so there is no change on that. You see, even though we have pretty low service level on Sunday, but the productivity is still very high, pretty close to the weekday service. So what does that mean? We still have pretty high demand on Sundays. We need more frequency and more services on Sundays. And especially for the Route 19 and 21, we have the highest level of productivity, meaning that boarding per revenue hour on Sundays for those two, even more than weekdays. So that tells us the story that the more productive route means more transit demand. And so that's why our initial suggestion is starting adding more frequency on the weekdays, and especially starting with Route 19 and 21. Those are the highest need and demand areas, and especially on Sundays. We can start with those whenever we have new money, and those where this is the areas where we have the new demand and where people need our system. Increasing frequency to the high demand routes is one of the best proven tool to increase the ridership, and then attracts the new riders, and also a proven driver of mode shift from cars to transit. And the second suggestions that key takeaways we have from this analysis is maybe increasing weekday frequency, especially starting with Route 16 and 23. Those are hourly routes, but still the productivity is really high, 17 and a little over 12. So those will be another areas. Route 16 serves in the West Salem, so pretty high demand. So maybe this is something that we should consider adding a little bit more frequency, because this is where the demand is. All right, so this is the scorecard. So we have evaluated our entire system and tried to figure out which routes are performing the best. And we have 3 criteria that we consider as part of this scorecard system, performance system. So the highest ridership gain we have seen on the Route 21, about slightly over 16,000 new rides. And we have also some 3 honorable mentions. Those are the routes we have also seen significant ridership gain in the fiscal year 2025, pretty high. And then on-time performance-wise, it's a really critical element, on-time performance. This measures how reliable is our system. So Route 27 came out 91% of the time. It's pretty on time. And some honorable mentions includes Route 4, 12, and 17. Productivity-wise, Route 19 is still the best performing, most productive route in 2025, and rides per revenue hour is 22.3. Combining all those 3 factors, we came up with Route 3 is probably the best performing route with on-time performance of 88%, where our agency goal is 85%. And rides per revenue hour is 20, boarding per revenue hour. And then ridership gain is 11.5%. So this is our best performing route. And the interesting thing is this is one of the core corridor networks, but it is still not 15-minute service. It is still 30-minute service. So we still yet to achieve our 2017 core network policy goal to make it 15 minutes frequency service. And I believe it deserves the most. Another key indicators I'd like to highlight is on-time performance. As I said, this measures the system reliability, how reliable our system is and how if people can bet on our system. On-time performance for the entire fixed route system is about close to our target, about 85%. And I'd like to show a breakdown of that so that we'll have better understanding of it. Last year, we brought a new technology, so a CAD-AVL system and other few additional technologies to address this issue. So we didn't have this for a while. So, and now Cherriots invested in those new technology and we successfully adopted and implemented those technology. This is what it looks like. So we started like in the Q1 for the local service, it was 82% and we ended up in 86%. And for the regional service, we started in 72% and ended the year in 90%. So I hope to continue improving the on-time performance as now we have the successful deployment of our CAD-AVL system and other technologies are in place and our staff is capitalizing on that. And more importantly, our riders are getting the benefits of it by knowing where it is, where the bus is. And this is another, the reason I'm bringing this up, this is the summary of our entire service, and it's a little cluttered, but I would like to make my point real quick. If you look at Route 11, this is where we have the most of the late, the highest late on Route 11. This is also one of the longest routes, and most of the riders are also in there. So this is the route. We know that there is an on-time performance issue, and that is why we are working on a technology called traffic signal priority. It's a green light extension. Whenever our buses approaches to those intersections, our buses will get the priority to extend the green light so that this will help us to get back right on schedule and then reduce the delays. This TSP project is in the final stage. We're hoping to get go live before the end of 2025. I hope sometime sooner, but definitely by 2025. And this is the snapshot of our Youth Zero Fare program. And this program is constantly, it's still rocking. About 27% of our total ridership is coming from that particular group. We have seen some slight decrease of the ridership, but still it's 1/3 of our ridership. So this program is still very much effective to our community. Cherriots Lift, this is a complimentary paratransit service that we provide for people with disabilities and seniors. Last year, in the fiscal year 2025, we have delivered over 106,000 trips, which is about 6% higher than the last year. And more importantly, on-time performance for our lift service is higher than the national average of about 85%. We are in the middle of 89.5%-ish. When you look at shared rides, about 2/3 of our rides have more than one people, which is also way higher than the national average. So that tells us the story of how best we're utilizing our resources. Our goal is to moving more people using the same amount of resources. So this is performing really well on that spectrum. In addition to the numbers, I'd like to show some testimony. What does that mean for the users? And here are the two testimonies. One of the riders, that person is blind, and then Jason is our MTM operator, and he helped our riders and going way above and beyond what they're supposed to do. And the second one also, like how in the inclement weather, how responsive our operators are, and they're very grateful. Without these kind of services, they don't have any shot to go around, even for doctor's visit or some other errands. And some additional numbers, we brought VIA is our technology provider for this service, and we brought them on board March of 2024. And since then, about 1,800 plus riders used our system, and total trips is over 230,000. And productivity, we have improved about 15%. Productivity is boarding per revenue hour. So when it started, it was about 1.9-ish. Now we're at 2.4. It's gradually improving. And then customer rating is also top-notch. Out of 5, we have 4.8. So this program is doing what it's supposed to do. And I'd like to give a shout out to our marketing and communication team as well, because the contactless fare payment system, UMO, which is really critical, and we have seen a significant increase of the usage of UMO. So in the last year, we have seen more than doubling our usage of UMO. So about 37%, little over 37% of all trips are in UMO, which is a huge milestone. And why this is important? It's easy and convenient for the riders, but also from the agency side, this is really critical for us to make better informed decision. Safety and reliability trends, and those are the two key metrics that we track to measure how good we are when it comes to the safety and reliability of our services. Preventable accidents per 100K miles traveled. Our goal is to stay at less than 2, and for local and regional, it's well below less than 2, and for the lift services, just slightly above, barely above 2. So there's some turnover, and then we have some new operators in there. So there was some training provided, additional training provided after that incident. So since then, it went down. So and things are in good shape right now. And road calls per 10,000 miles traveled, the goal is to get less than 1 per 10K miles, and everything is well below our expected range and target, agency target. So it's basically telling me folks who are involved in this, they know what to do, and they're doing it really well. And this is probably one of the last things that I'd like to give just a 40,000 feet above the ground version of this. So we have launched our battery electric buses late 2024, and we're still in the exploration phase. We're gathering data, performance-related data, and understand the range and then battery capacity, charging issues. So we're exploring all those things, and we're making adjustments in our services, like for the September service change, based on the data that we have received. We made some minor tweaks. So it'll take about a couple of years to, at least a year, to understand our seasonal variability. And the more data we have, the better we can plan accordingly. And as of now, we are calculating other key performance indicators for battery electric buses. Those are not ready yet, but we're hoping to add them back in the FY26 reports in the upcoming months. Right now, we're validating those information because there are a lot of information from so many different sources. We need to make sure that those are accurate. So we're doing QA/QC at this point. Just key highlights in the last 3 quarters of FY25. We drove about 190,000 total mileage in those time frame. And then what it means when it comes to the greenhouse gas and reduction of the car trips wise, about 105,000 pounds of reduction of greenhouse gas, and translating it into reduction of car trips, about 9,900 car trips eliminated because we're driving this battery electric buses. So more to come on that. The KPIs are being reviewed at this point, but it's not ready as of now. Looking ahead, so as I said, FY25 was the year of advancement, and we are looking forward to FY26 with even more exciting stuff. As we know, we are working on service enhancements plan, and it is right now draft, and we are going out to the community to get feedback and to finalize our plan. And we're doing a lot of outreach, open house, and our colleague Heil will provide more details on that. But our goal is to finalize the service enhancements plan sometime in FY26. And also, we will continuously improve our performance report, meaning that adding more context, more KPIs, and maybe more story, what exactly we're getting out of it. So better improving the performance report, that's one of the key goals as well. And completing some key elements like comprehensive operations analysis, we're hoping to finish it by end of fiscal year 2026. And also the micro-mobility feasibility study that we're hoping to complete by end of 2025, calendar year 2025. So those are so exciting stuff, and this will help us to finalize our service enhancements plan as well. South Salem Transit Center project, another big projects for the district, and hopefully in the fiscal year 26, we'll be in the land acquisition. We're hopeful that we will be able to complete the land acquisition process and then beginning the final design process in this fiscal year. And at the same time, we're also working on another transit center for the East Salem to better connect that neighborhood and better serve our community. As of now, we are out for solicitation to select a site, potential site, and once we are ready, I'll be presenting that before the board in the upcoming months. So that's pretty much it for fiscal year 2025 performance report. I'll be happy to take any question that you might have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from our board members? Yes, Director Carney.
Thank you for the great report, Shobhi. I wish we still had a room stuffed full of people so that we could all just like celebrate this great information. All the tools we have access to now to assist with our service reliability and our system efficiency, like seeing the payoff is so gratifying. I don't know what's wrong with me that I like this report this much, but I think you have the same thing wrong with you. And I just, one of your slides was addressing the safety, and it reminded me of the comment that we heard earlier from the woman who was commending our drivers for their safe driving performance. And then before that, the 8 million miles of driving with 0 preventable accidents that we celebrated at the very top of the meeting. And so I know you have the pleasure of delivering this report, but it is the work of so many, so many, and to the benefit of our community in such a significant way. So thank you all for your work, and thank you to our operators for the amazing service they provide.
Thank you, Director Carney.
Thank you very much. Yes, Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi, and thank you, Shobhi, for this really awesome report. I really appreciated the snapshot of the marketing engagement, just because I used to play a little bit with the analytics, and so seeing like who's engaging with the post is intriguing to me. And so I was wondering, is there an opportunity to capture that information in a future report and see who's engaging with the post? What's the demographic of the individuals that are engaging with the post? Where are they located? And then like where are they going? Is it taking them to go download the UMO app? Are they using the trip planner on the website? Like what intrigues them the most about our posts after they start engaging with them?
Thank you, Director Navarro. I think that's a great question. I think we can definitely explore that path.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Holmstrom.
Thank you. Can you refresh our memory or let us know a little bit about where we're at in the comprehensive operational analysis process and where we go from here?
Okay, sure. Thank you for the question, Director Holmstrom. We have just completed the existing condition analysis, and the next step is to do the stop level analysis. So we brought a software solution provider to do the data cleansing for stop level ridership. So that will help us to do this next step to understand where the riders are, what time of day, and so that will really help us to design our system, make it more efficient based on the demand and time of day, and so incorporating all of those pieces. So this is where we are right now. So completed the existing condition analysis, and then we're going to do the stop level analysis, and then once you do that, then there will be public engagement process like, hey, this is what we have seen from the data, and what do you think? So we're going to prepare a plan, draft plan, based on what we see in the data, and then we're going to go before the public to provide us feedback if they have any different thoughts. And this includes, and COA is a great opportunity for us to maybe rethink and reevaluate our thought process based on the latest and greatest data, and what should be our priority in access, in booming the ridership, or and then we can go any direction we want. But this is the great opportunity for us, and the timing wise, this is really great. That what is our priority, and then we can go and and decide the best path moving forward, increasing frequency, introducing new type of service like microtransit, or maybe bike share, or combination of those. And this COA and other feasibility study will, once we complete all of those, we will have really clear picture. This is where the demand is, and this is the best way to serve those people. So, and I'm hoping that, I don't want to conclude it right now, this is in process. I'm hoping there will be a combination of all of those things to optimize our resources.
Yeah, just to follow up, thank you so much for that, and that's a great answer. I think this is super important, and just kind of a key, like, basic building block. I mean, we did this process a number of years ago. The community's grown and changed since then. We've heard from folks today that they're saying, hey, let's look at making sure that we have an efficient system. I totally agree. You totally agree. We all agree. And that's what we're doing with this process right now. I just want to make sure that this stays kind of near the top of the list for the board, that we can continue to have updates into that, and where it makes sense for us to provide feedback as well. Thank you.
Absolutely, Director Holmstrom. I think that is on our action item list. So once we make some progress, and my staff will come here and do the presentation, and we would be happy to get feedback from the board. And then also, we're going to seek feedback from the public as well. Yeah, that is in our action item list.
All righty. Yes, Director Duncan.
I just want to pull something you said out because I was so surprised about, I want to talk about Route 3 for a second, because you said a couple things. You said that it wasn't on the list last year. Now it's on the list as far as exceeding the productivity targets, and it's our overall best performer, and it only has 30-minute service. Is that all correct?
For Route 3?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think those are all things that
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident.
if
those are all
it is in
things you
there,
said.
it is correct, yeah.
And I just wanted to point out, that's crazy. That route runs from downtown. I double checked it because this is not one of my regular routes, but it runs from downtown up through north on Portland Road to Chemeketa.
Yeah.
And I'm not you, so I only have theories of why I think it's doing well. But I'm going to give my theories. It goes past the Oregon State Fair Expo Center,
yes.
And we've had a lot more events post-COVID, and also enrollment for, I'm sure, in-person classes is up.
Schools
and I'm just so we keep talking about, are our buses full? Do we have people using it? Like something like this, where we have a single route explode in usership or ridership, is just so encouraging to see how much people are needing and using and utilizing the service, especially as, the community comes back to life post-COVID, and they're going to events again, and they're going to class in person again, and how important those things are for our community. So I just had to pull that out because that's kind of crazy. And I'm just excited to see that ridership, and hopefully we can continue to meet the demand, because that's great. Let's try to get that route down to 15 minutes. So thank you so much.
That would be exciting. Thank you for the comments.
Director Carney.
Thank you, President Hinojosa-Pressy. I also wanted to give Route 3 a huge shout out. I've been riding it a bunch lately. It also stops at the Center 50 Plus.
Yeah.
Hands down, my current favorite. Go Route 3, and 15-minute service would be absolutely a benefit to all riders along that route, including myself.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, so thank you. Thank you for the great report.
Thanks so much.
That'll bring us to our fiscal year 25 annual safety and security division report. General Manager?
Yes, thank you. I'll ask our Chief Safety Officer to please come forward.
Good evening, President Pressy and members of the board. I am here tonight to go over what we're really excited about, which we're calling kind of our reimagined safety and security report. So what you're used to seeing from us is really an annual security report that's really based in security, and seeing quarterly reports that's really based in security. And that really doesn't tell the whole story about what our division does. And so what this report really is a high-level view looking at really all the areas within our organization or my division that we deal with. So risk management, emergency management, security, safety, things like that. So this is intended to be a high view, just a real high look over it. And then going forward, each quarter, we're going to focus on a different area within the division. So one quarter, you may get a lot of information about emergency management. Next quarter, you might get a lot of information about risk management. And so I felt it was important to start this off with kind of a high-level view, get you some information. And since this is our first pass, also getting feedback from each of you about what you like, what you see in this presentation, what you want to see more of, that sort of thing. And so what we have is important too is, I think it's important that you hear from the team that's doing that work. So all these happy smiling faces back here, my team are all back here, will be coming up and talking about their respective areas as we get to those. And so we'll get started. I'm going to do the first 5 slides. The first 5 slides really are kind of the executive summary that kind of talk about what we're going to talk about anyway. So I'm just going to kind of skim over those kind of quickly so that we can get into the meat of hearing from the folks who do the good work who are sitting behind me. So this executive summary is going to talk about system safety that's here. We're going to talk about system security. We're going to talk about risk management in those spaces. Emergency management, which has been a lot of work we've been getting done in that realm. And then we're going to look forward at fiscal year 26, what our priorities are, things that we're working on for that. A big one I wanted to talk about was kind of stakeholder collaboration, and that's something that I've been working on a lot since I've taken this role on. We all know our community, law enforcement, fire, juvenile departments, police departments are stretched thin, resources are thin, and it's more important than ever that we focus our energies to what's really important. And so I'm having regular meetings with these organizations to talk about each of our challenges, and then when we have resources or we have ability to do things, where do we want to focus those at? And so we've already seen some progress in that recently Salem Police has kind of given some overtime hours to downtown enforcement kind of activities, and so we've been able to partner with them, and they've been able to help kind of address some of our North Block issues that we kind of have had issues with in the past. So that collaboration is paying off, but it's going to be a lot of work that we have to keep working with our stakeholders to kind of be most resourceful with the time and energies that they have in the community. So there's a lot of work there we're really appreciative of. And then overall, we're going to talk about the safety management system integration, and so it's kind of achievements, our key impacts, and then kind of the focus going forward is kind of what we're going to talk about here as we go through. And with that, I get to bring up Karen Garcia, our Security Emergency Management Manager.
Good evening. I'm here to share about our system safety program. This year, we had some pretty significant improvements to our agency safety plan. We had new requirements that were presented by the federal government, and so staff did quite a bit of work to update the plan, which came before the board in April of this year for adoption. With that, we engaged the Safety and Security Committee a lot more than what we did in the past, not only because they were their role in the new federal requirements increased significantly, but they are a key component to the system safety program. We have regular monthly meetings with them to discuss different issues that are happening in the system. So their participation in the process is vital. So we spent quite a bit of time with them educating the committee on the system safety program and the safety management system process so that they were better equipped to help in those efforts. With the adoption of the agency safety plan, we also established safety performance targets for the fiscal year. So the safety performance targets are established based on a 3-year rolling average of our National Transit Database safety reporting. The NTD reporting is based on calendar year. So the plan, the agency safety plan, is for fiscal year 25-26. However, the safety performance targets are based on a calendar year. So with that, we're halfway through calendar year 2025 and almost 3/4 of the way through. But we have data on the first 2 quarters, and so we did a mid-year check on those safety performance targets, and I'd like to share those with you this evening. So we have 2 sets of safety performance targets in the agency safety plan. The first set is on the local service, and our targets measure our major reportable events, collision, fatality, and injury rates, the rates of assaults on transit workers, and then also our system reliability. And these are not all road calls like chief reported on previously, these are major mechanical failures, and they have to meet certain criteria in order to be NTD reportable. But as you can see, for the local service, we're about 50-50. So about half are a little bit higher than what the target is midway through the year, and the other half are either below the target or right on target. So we're sitting in a pretty good position for the local service. For the ADA paratransit, so this is our Cherriots lift service, we measure the same safety performance targets, but please keep in mind that that is a much smaller service, much fewer revenue miles. One additional reportable incident can really have an impact on the rates because we don't drive as many miles. So we have several that we're right on target with, which is great, but we also have a few that are a little higher. The one that is significantly higher right now is system reliability. And although we have a phenomenal vehicle maintenance staff that does a great job maintaining all of our vehicles, including the lift fleet, it is an aging fleet. And we know that it's harder to maintain those vehicles when they get more and more miles. But the good news is we are getting new vehicles as we speak. We have new vehicles that recently went into service, and I believe there will be an order for additional vehicles to support that lift service this year. So as we replace those aged vehicles, hopefully we'll have better results in our system reliability for that fleet. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to share about the safety program is just a reminder of the perception of safety. And this is a reflection of the customer satisfaction and the employee engagement surveys that were conducted in 2024. So overall, our customers, our riders, feel safe riding the bus, and they feel safe waiting for the bus, which is a good thing. We provide a lot of service to this community, and knowing that they feel safe engaging with the service is a great thing to see in the survey results. And I also wanted to point out that in their top priorities, feeling safe riding the bus was number 3 of their top, and feeling safe waiting for the bus was rated number 4 in their top priorities. And then in the employment engagement survey, feeling of safety being a priority, the represented staff, some disagreed or strongly disagreed with that. And so we've got some work to do in that area to help them feel that their safety is a priority, because it is. We do a lot of work to help ensure safety is at the highest level possible on board the buses. And then also, not surprisingly, they rated workplace safety. The represented workforce rated workplace safety as number 1 of their top priorities. So with that, that concludes the system safety, and I will turn it over to system security for Justin Kenyon, who is our security coordinator.
Good evening. It's good to see you again. So part of the objectives that our program is seeking to provide is providing an environment for staff and riders that is as secure as possible. Number 2, provide safety and security resources for employees and users of Cherriots. And number 3, facilitate training that heightens security and situational awareness. Some of our key achievements last for fiscal year 25 was we provided de-escalation training to over 150 of our operators and customer service staff. We responded to the FTA's general directive regarding assaults on transit workers, providing mitigation strategies to the Safety and Security Committee. Some of those included bus operator barriers in the bus, de-escalation training, and post-incident reviews. Last year, we had 15 assaults on transit workers. 7 of those were operators, and 8 of those were security officers. A total of 58 assaults and verbal threats towards staff broke down to 15 assaults and then 43 verbal threats. The verbal threats are reportable, which is something new to the NTD, and those would include, threats of violence towards an operator or a staff member, as for whatever conflict they're dealing with. It could be something like, hey, I'll see you when you get off work, or I'll be waiting for you tomorrow, that kind of thing. So also fiscal year 25 saw 134 cases of fighting and disorderly conduct for rider-on-rider behavior. So that broke down to 86 disorderlies and roughly 48 fights and assaults between riders, not involving staff. And this was an average of about 4 events per 100,000 boardings. Looking at those incidences, most of that's happening here downtown at the downtown transit center. And then out on the system, there was 14 discons or assaults on the Route 11, and then the rest of those were broken up between the other routes, as you can see. One thing that we implemented, I think, late 24 and early, and most of last fiscal year was putting security officers on bus rides, and we did that 288 times, meaning an officer would approach a bus, ask the operator if they wanted some company, and of course that was never denied. And so we had a security presence on many of the routes, and this is a breakdown of where some of those routes, or where all the routes ended up. So probably the most security rides were on Route 5, as you can see, and then Route 19, Route 21, and Route 7 got quite a few rides. As far as what's happening downtown and pulling CAD reports from City of Salem, Salem received 319 responses to what is considered the downtown courthouse square block. And those are calls into 911, and I think their business line as well, reporting some sort of behavior. Somebody wants a welfare check, or they're reporting behavior that you see many times on High Street with teenage drinking and fighting, and but it could also be medical calls or welfare checks. So that's a variety of things that are happening that the city is getting calls on. However, our security officers are reporting 74 events of police activity. So the difference is, and that's the disparity of the number, is when a Salem police officer arrives on scene, our security is documenting that, and it generally is not related to Cherriots. So they're here investigating something they've seen as they've driven by, or a member of the public has called and reported some activity, and it's not necessarily related to us. So we contract with 2 different security providers, DPI, which covers 24/7 out at our Del Webb security facility, which constitutes one person over 3 shifts. So probably 3 officers that are covering that, and sitting in a guard shack, just making sure that the facility is safe and they're monitoring who's coming and going. And then we staff 2 to 3 officers here at DTC with another provider called PPC, or Phoenix Protective Corporation. And they also provide 1 to 2 officers at KTC, and that service is just during normal operating hours for our service. Some of the challenges that we are facing in the security department is just engaging community partners. All of our community partners, as was touched on earlier, are dealing with a lack of resources, or they're trying to do a lot with what they have, and we're another partner that is requesting their services, as in the case of wanting more police presence, especially downtown. And then getting them to engage to help problem solve the community issues, given that everyone's has constraints in their resources. All right, that's all I have.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Next up will be Deborah Grant, our risk manager.
Good evening. So we're going to take a little shift. Risk management joined the Safety and Security Division about first part of this last year, so we have not had a full year with the division as of yet. Our primary focus is to identify and prevent issues before they become incidents by looking at regular reports and seeking input from our stakeholders, be it employees out in the field, supervisors, managers, and in some instances, the community. Our primary method is to review those reports. Safety is not just a compliance issue, but it's a daily commitment shaped by teamwork and routine reviews. By sharing updates at the safety and risk meetings and reviewing incident details, we're able to work on creating an environment where trends and concerns are visible and actionable, encouraging employees to participate in making a safer system. One of the main programs that risk management works with is our insurance programs. We work closely with our partners, Brown & Brown Northwest, who is our broker of record, as well as Special Districts of Oregon, who provide the bulk of our insurance. We track the district's assets, monitor their values, claim patterns, and emerging risks to ensure that we have the proper levels of insurance and identify any gaps that might be present so that we can review the feasibility of adding a new layer of protection or additional layer of protection on our assets and facilities. We also maintain the workers' comp program working through SAFE Corporation. SAFE works with us closely to manage claims for our injured workers, but we also work towards identifying exposures that create employee injuries and risks. We work closely with the departments to identify training areas that are necessary for loss reduction. Our safety management system uses feedback from the departments and the trend analysis that we're able to assess where these risks are happening and then determine methods of mitigating them to reduce the potential for further injury. There's also the property liability aspects. As with workers' comp, we continue to review each incident, trying to understand what contributed to a loss or near miss, and discuss with the stakeholders methods of preventing further loss in the foreseeable future. By maintaining incident tracking and open discussion, we practice safety risk management, identifying, mitigating, and reviewing risks using familiar and accessible methods. These help us to learn from every event and continue to build resilience across our assets and facilities. Moving forward, Cherriots is continually exploring ways to improve its safety management system implementation, including adopting new technologies as appropriate for our agency's needs and resources. Taking advantage of existing resources and advancing our technology tools could mean using mobile communication for quicker incident responses, using tablets, smart devices, utilizing existing GPS tracking as in the Avail system for quicker or for monitoring transit assets in real time, and piloting more complex and smart dashboard systems to increase the visibility of safety trends throughout the system. These technologies are designed to make safety and loss information more accessible for analysis, supporting decision-making and advancing effective safety risk management and safety insurance as part of our safety management system. Moving forward, we remain committed to utilizing appropriate technologies that fit our agencies and strengthen our culture of safety, never losing sight of the need for practical solutions and staff involvements. As the transit industry evolves, Cherriots will continue tracking best practices in the SMS, incorporating tools that are effective, affordable, and support safe, reliable service for all. And with that, I will turn it over to Randy Nevelinsky.
Start with a drink, and maybe we don't need one as we go. All right. Excuse me, let me get this ready. So, good evening, everyone. I'm always happy and very appreciative to get to share some of the great things that we're doing with our emergency management program. So I'm happy to be here. We've accomplished a tremendous amount. But as always, we know there's a lot more work to be done. We are ready for that work and challenge, and I'm personally a little bit excited about that. So with it in mind, let's dive into what's been going on in our emergency management program. Before I advance the slide, I'd like you to direct you to the slide and talk a little bit about this. That's me in the middle of presenting to a group of firefighters for the Salem Fire Department. This photo captures a moment from our recent CNG BEB first responder training. It's a vital initiative that focused on teaching first responders how to safely manage our compressed natural gases and our battery electric buses. The goal was to empower them to do their jobs without causing harm to themselves or others. This training was massive, collaborative effort. We partnered with Salem Fire, Keizer Fire Department, Marion County Fire District 1, delivering over 100 hours of instruction to more than 350 firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, battalion chiefs, and fire marshals. In addition, we held a train-the-trainer session, which brought in not only those fire districts training officers, but also law enforcement training officers from the Salem Police Department, Keizer Police Department, and Marion County Sheriff's Office. That latter meeting sets the stage for future trainings focused on law enforcement. This initiative embodies an essential part of our program's core mission that I heard the chief talk about earlier, establishing and building deep collaborative relationships with our stakeholders. And by playing a vital role in community emergency preparedness, we've directly support the agency's mission of creating community connections and ultimately making our entire community stronger and more resilient. So let's look at a few slides. That really tells you a lot about what we've been doing. Our aims of our program, we want to ensure compliance for our agency and the National Incident Management System. We're just starting that, and there's a number of steps, and part of that responsibility is mine to make sure we do that. We also want to support our staff and their families in preparedness. Our staff, we're trying to have them understand, and a large number of them are essential workers, and just like law enforcement and firefighters and paramedics, none of these people are going to come to work if their families and their homes are not taken care of and prepared. If those families are prepared, they're willing to stay at work or they're willing to come to work when they're called. And that's what we're trying to get our essential workers to think in that same frame. So they can come to work and they can stay at work when we need them. We, of course, focus a lot on enhancing transit service preparedness. That's what we're all here for, is having the buses on the road and keep them on the road. And then also strengthen our community disaster resilience, as I've kind of talked about with what we're doing. We hope to achieve these aims through collaboration with stakeholders and partners, as I've mentioned. Planning, we do a lot of planning and development of ongoing maintenance of those plans, recurring staff training through exercises and real-world events. You heard Melissa talk a little of that on the safety minute. And then after-action reviews. We feel strongly about those to drive continuous improvement, and General Manager Pollock can speak to those, that he's read a few of those as well. So our key achievements, we've developed a continuity of operations plan, monthly maintenance. I say that because we spent 18 months refreshing and putting together the plan. The last thing we want is it to go on the shelf and not look at it again. We want a living document, and the way we do it is we attend to it every month with something that we're making and building a plan with. We've implemented a Community and Emergency Planning Advisory Committee, what we call CPAC. We want agency buy-in. We have representatives from every department and every plan in that group. We completed annual winter operations plan and procedures. That's what I get to start doing next month as we enter winter season. It's a very annual occurrence. As you guys, the first time you've met me in person was a little while ago when we received the National Weather Service NOAA recognition as storm ready. That paid off dearly in the ice storm of 2025 when we were online with the National Weather Service one-on-one getting accurate information on what's happening on the floor of Salem and not what's happening in Portland. So, and then fully implemented emergency exercises, emergency procedures at Del Webb that are complementary to what we have down here. Every exercise and every drill that we do downtown, we do out at Del Webb at the shops and headquarters as well. And then delivering comprehensive state initiatives and trainings. Exercises, just a couple of these. We, in all our exercises and all our drills, we follow an industry standard called the Homeland Security and Exercise Evaluation Program. What that is it's basically a standardized guide so that planning and conducting and evaluating exercises occurs effectively and safely. And through that, we conduct quarterly joint communications checks. With this, it's with Marion County when we're in this building. Of course, it's with ourselves when we're at Del Webb. Semi-annual fire evacuation, functional exercises, mean exercises where we're actually getting bodies up and moving versus a tabletop where we're talking about it around a tabletop. We'll be participating for the 6th year in a row, or more, at least since I've been here, the Great Oregon Shakeout, which will happen next month, and then the winter operations tabletop exercise we have annually, and this year we completed an active threat tabletop to start our discussions with Marion County. And then, of course, real-world events we have to activate for the 2025 ice storm, and then fairly recently, we had to activate for a Courthouse Square power emergency, power outage, and we've learned very, very clearly now what works and doesn't work on a power outage downtown. It's very different than Del Webb, where we've got generators and we're in business out there. It's a different story downtown. But we're better prepared for it as a result. And this is a big one. You heard our chief talk about this, is stakeholder engagement. We get deeply involved with stakeholders. That's a big project that was put on my shoulders, and I enjoy it. Monthly collaboration meetings with the Courthouse Square Joint Safety Committee, where we meet with Marion County representatives and we talk about safety items that concern both of us. We've talked about the BEB trainings, attending monthly and quarterly city, county, and state advisory committees, as well as participating in planning. I'm really happy with where we're at right now. Presently, we're represented, I represent Cherriots in 8 state, county, and city planning and advisory committees. We just were involved with the closing of 2 big projects with the Salem Hazard Mitigation Plan and the Marion County Public Health Climate and Health Adaptation Plan, that we are deeply involved with that. So what we hope to do in the future, finalize, we have a new emergency operations plan coming our way. We hope to completely revamp the emergency response guide. That's the quick one. You look at what do I do in this situation. Finalize the pandemic recovery plan, review and confirm our alternate sites. These are if we have to close down Downtown Transit Center or Keizer, where do we go? Presently, we go to Bush Park, or we go to a church up by Keizer. We need to expand that list. And then, should there be a football game at Bush Park, that's not a viable option for parking. And then align staff, as we mentioned, with NIMS compliance. And we'll be changing our structures over in our paperwork to look incident command structures and looking more in line with the National Incident Management System. So that's what I have, and I'm going to hand it back over to our chief.
Thank you. So I get the last slide, kind of close things down here. Really just going to talk about our division priorities, and one of them really is establishing a safety security training program that's responsive to changing needs. And the word I like to use is agile. There's just a lot of different things that come at us at different paces, and being able to respond to the things that our customers and our employees are running into. We want to be able to address those really quickly. Fully implement the de-escalation training program so that all employees get that training. We obviously have to review and monitor the FTA requirements for the agency safety plan and making sure we're adhering to those standards. And then the big one for us is the collaboration piece. And so a big one is with our security provider, making sure they're accountable to our riders and to our customers and to our employees, that they're providing the kind of security services that we want. And so I know that was a lot of info, a lot of people, but really we want your feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, so that as we continue to develop this, it becomes something that is really beneficial to the board. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from folks? Yes, Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi. Thank you for this. I really appreciate this comprehensive report, and I really appreciate the inclusion of emergency management and preparedness in this. A lot of times when we're thinking about safety and security, it seems like it's more of like a threat and how to respond. But the climate and other things that are out of our control are also threatening. We saw that back in 2020, we had the wildfires, the Labor Day fires, and so I'm like, if there was an opportunity, I mean, that whole situation was messed up, but if there was an opportunity that that we could partner with the county or maybe with the state or with the communities that are in our catchment area, at least with regional service, to provide like mass evacuation opportunities to get those folks out of there into the Marion County Fairgrounds, like that would be really awesome. And so my question is, there are some opportunities and training exercises like that are done statewide, not specific to wildfires at least, but there was one called Iron Ore 24. I don't know if you've heard about that. So Iron Ore 24 was with the Oregon Department of Emergency Management, and they hosted a statewide exercise on the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. And so it allowed a lot of departments to collaborate and figure out how are they going to respond in the case of, more of when that incident happens. And I'm curious if there's an opportunity for us to practice stuff like that. Because I know that in Keizer, at least, we have quite a few bridges that aren't retrofitted to be able to withstand a major earthquake like that. We have the Marion Street Bridge that's being retrofitted right now because those bridges won't withstand that type of event. So I'm wondering if there was an event like that happened, how would Keizer respond, and how would Cherriots support Keizer?
And that's a lot of the work that Randy's doing right now, is that surprisingly what he's finding out as he's reaching out to these different groups is that they've kind of forgot about us. Like they just don't make the connection, or they see us as their smaller resource, or they put it they put it in their plan, oh yeah, we'd use Cherriots, but they haven't fully thought the plan out past, oh, we'll call Cherriots because they have buses. No. And so really having him be there, being at the meetings, collaborating with folks, and learning about what is the actual need, what can our equipment actually do, and to be able to support them. And so really working on those relationships so that it's not, so people understand what our resource is and how we can provide support, but also we have to balance that with the mission of, our primary mission is transit, is our moving people around the city for that piece. And so balancing those is another part we have to manage as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Yes, Director Duncan.
Thank you very much. So, thank you so much for this very comprehensive report. There's a couple things I wanted to pull out. One was about the security bus rides. Last time you guys were here, that hadn't started yet, so thank you very much for highlighting it, because it's one that I've had community members directly ask about, so that's one that I particularly was interested in. I love seeing it. I kind of had double-checked and looked at if we were, riding the routes that seem to be having the high-frequency issues, and it seems like it's a pretty good spread, so thank you for that attention. I think that's great. I also appreciated your note that it's never been denied when offered. And I don't know if you know this or not, but when you get on the bus, if you use Google for your route rather than UMO, I know a lot of my colleagues use UMO, so I tend to use Google to try to make sure that we're looking at both. One of the things it asks you is what the security presence is like. It'll ask you, is there a camera? Is there somebody riding the bus? Is there whatever? And so I don't know if there's some way that we can signal the riders so that they know that those things are there, because I do think that they may not know that those things are there. I think it asks you if there's a number you can call, if there's a security camera, and if there's an officer on board. I think those are the 3 questions. But definitely check it out and ride and see what those questions are, because I'd love to be able to give people the tools to know what's going on and to know what they can and can't answer. Because like I said earlier, if we don't tell them what we're doing, then they sometimes don't know. So anyway, I wanted to pull that out and how much I appreciated it. And then I did have one question, if I can monopolize just a little longer. You guys mentioned that one of the lovely presenters, Justin, mentioned that we count, so you mentioned that Salem SPD reported 319 responses to the courthouse square block, so that's how many times they responded. And then Cherriots recorded 74 events as police activity. So can you expand just a little bit on the difference between those, because I didn't quite capture it properly. So can you help me understand when we record it as a police activity event versus when they say there was a response?
Well, the difference of that being is that they may be here and we don't know it.
Okay.
And so it's when they are here, we actually catch them being here, and we actually have an interaction with them, and they document why they're there. And so it's us documenting them being there versus they could just deal with something at the North Block and we have no contact with them at all, and then they just go about their way. But it's also that things that are off property that are happening that our security wouldn't get involved with anyway.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it, because a lot of the community is going to get that 319 number and think that that's the amount of incidents that we personally are having. So I appreciate that we do track it differently, because I have a lot of people that talk to us about different activity that happens downtown. And I remember not that long ago, I got off a bus and there was 6 cop cars, and I was like, oh my God, what happened? Am I going to get a call? And so I walked over and I asked the security guard what happened. He said, oh, somebody brought a Nerf gun. And somebody thought it was a real gun, and so we have 6 police cars. And I don't know if you were informed of that incident or not, it doesn't really matter. And I just thought that was interesting, and thinking the community is going to see 6 cop cars here and to think something horrible happened, and me knowing that it was a Nerf gun. I asked 3 different people, and they all confirmed that that's what it was just interesting. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The intent of the slide is to show you that there are challenges downtown. We're in a challenging environment, so there's things that are happening around us that we're trying to also kind of mitigate.
I don't mean to diminish that there are challenging things downtown. Thank you for that. No, that was my intention was just that the numbers might feel a little bit different than the way that we feel them here. And I ride at the downtown transit center a lot, and I've felt very safe there. And I know that things happen still, and we live in a community. And anyway, thank you very much for providing that increased clarity.
Director Laura Midkiff.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Cliff, for sharing your staff with us tonight and their wonderful presentations. I had 4 questions. One is for you, Cliff, though it also may be for Tom, as I don't know who owns this, but in FY25, you mentioned, rightfully so, all the de-escalation trainings that were being performed. How many of the immigration enforcement trainings have been delivered since the board adopted our ordinance in February?
Immigration.
Joaquin, could you maybe clarify that question? What do you mean by immigration enforcement trainings?
Part of our ordinance in February, as I recall, was training our staff around how to engage with immigration enforcement. So I was just clarifying.
Okay, sorry. You're talking about the handout that we created handouts for all the operators to have to understand how to respond if they had an issue on their bus. And then we passed out all the memos to all employees to understand if you're in an office space or an office setting, here's the response protocol if ICE shows up, and then for our operators as well. So all the employees received that information in those handouts so that they could carry that with them if there was in fact an issue that arose.
Okay, that's helpful. So the training was the handout?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Karen, though Cliff, you may take it, I'm not sure. Karen, you mentioned in your portion of the presentation that 50% of represented employees said they disagreed or strongly disagreed, one of the two, with safety, feeling as though safety was a priority. Do you know what percentage of the represented staff responded to that survey?
I don't have that information. We could get that information and get back to you, though. I believe that information was collected when Administrator Kidd worked with our contractor to collect those survey responses. So we'll dig into that and provide that to the general manager to pass that back on to the board.
I appreciate that answer. I ask it, as you can imagine, just so that I take it very seriously. I think it's very important to us. It certainly is for me, and it's helpful to understand what that really represents. And so I want to better understand that figure. So thank you for that. My last two questions are for Justin, and they centered around the same. Excuse me. They centered around the same portion of the presentation that Sarah just asked about, around the 319 responses, 74 police activity events. How does that compare? My first question is, how does that compare historically year over year? Is that more or less about the same that we've seen in years past?
Let me go. Go ahead. If I may.
Is that a Karen question or a Justin question? I thought that was in Justin's part of the presentation.
Justin did present that piece of the information, but I wanted to come up because historically I have provided the security report. So this year, we fully implemented our new incident management software tool, TransTrack. In previous years, the data that was reported to the board was only incident reports that involved the security department. It did not include incident reports that were provided by other staff within the agency. Now that we have TransTrack, all of our incident reports go into the same tool and we're able to provide more holistically. That even includes the services that are provided by MTM. So incidences that happen on the regional and lift services are also going into that same reporting tool. So in the past, we have reported on different metrics for police response to the transit agencies. In TransTrack, we have the ability to categorize what types of reports are happening, but there's nowhere inside the tool for us to record if we requested a response. So what was provided on that slide was the numbers of responses that Salem Police recorded to the entire block 24/7, even when we are not here. The police activity number that was reported on that slide is when our security staff recorded activity from law enforcement on our property that did not involve us. So in between, there's a gap in the numbers. Part of the numbers are things that occur when we're not here that we have no knowledge about. The other piece is what we are unfortunately not able to capture in TransTrack, and that is when we request a police presence. In the past, I've been able to manually calculate how many times we've requested a police presence, but it's not really feasible for us to do things manually anymore. We're really trying to use the software tool that we have, but unfortunately, we don't have a place in the tool to capture that one piece of data. Does that help answer the question?
It does, thank you, I appreciate that answer. Off the top of your head, year over year, how many times would you call a request police presence?
I think we actually call the police less now than we did in the past, because when Salem Police Department had officers in the downtown core, we had a relationship with them and we had a paid relationship. So we would call police more often and they would show up more often. Now their resources are depleted and they don't have a team that's dedicated to the downtown core area. So I find our contract security officers are dealing with minor criminal activity that we would historically have called police to come respond to the property and address. So we are calling them less. We call them when it's a serious incident. If we have a fight, reports of a weapon, anything like that, we're definitely calling for law enforcement. But as an example, trespassing, if someone's been excluded from the property and they come back, in the past, we have called law enforcement to help us deal with a trespass, and now we rarely call law enforcement. We make the request or we issue a further exclusion, but we make the request, and if the individual leaves, we don't involve law enforcement for those types of activities any further.
I have one more question, but before I get to that one, your response interests me, Karen. Other than trespassing, what are other quote-unquote minor criminal activities that our security staff or contractors are dealing with, and what, in your experience, has that toll been on them with the absence of police force in the area?
I think we have called them more frequently in the past for disorderly behavior. When there were large groups of people and there was yelling and things like that, we would call law enforcement because we knew that their response time was going to be very quick because they were on bikes in the downtown core and normally just a few moments away. Now the security officers will approach the group if it's safe to do so and try to get them off the property, which there's pros and cons to that because I don't like pushing our problems out onto the sidewalk. But we have to do what we can in order to maintain a safe environment for our ridership and for our employees. And so we try to break up those disturbances and get people to leave the property. And a lot of times it actually disperses the event because half of the people involved will leave the property in one direction and the other half will leave the property in the opposite direction. So it will diffuse it overall the majority of the time. But in the past, we have called a lot for trespassing. We still have a lot of trespass events, which we do capture those numbers. We just don't engage law enforcement when there's a trespass unless the person refuses to leave when we request it.
Thank you, and thank you for bearing with me with my questions. My last question is, and this may or may not be for you, Karen, I'm not sure. It was part of Justin's portion, but how many incidences that happened in the courthouse where resulted in arrests? I don't know what your data sharing policy is with Salem Police, but do you know that figure?
We receive an automated report from their system, and so that's why we know what the number of responses is to the block. But I don't have data on how many arrests or what the results of those responses. And some of those responses are more administrative in nature. That's not always a criminal event. So it's hard for me to say we don't have access to that.
Okay, thank you.
I will add, though, that I think law enforcement now are looking more for compliance. I mean, historically, I saw them cite more people or arrest more people. More people were being transported to Marion County. But when COVID happened, like the landscape of law enforcement completely changed. And I think we've shared that with the board before. And I think that even though we're through COVID times, technically now, I think that for lower level crimes, my experience is that law enforcement is not arresting to the same level that they did in the past pre-COVID.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, Director Navarro?
Thank you, President Hinojosa-Presti. Sorry, one last thing to add. As Director Duncan was talking, she was talking about how she was riding on Cherriots and it made her feel safe, and that made me recall something that happened where I got a message of a parent looking for their daughter because their daughter had gone missing. And they said, I don't know where she's at. All I know is that she jumped on a city bus. And I said, well, call the customer service and see if you can try to get a hold of her. And later on, I ended up finding out that the daughter was being stalked while getting off of school. And the safest place that she could go to was to a city bus. And you guys create that environment. So I want to say thank you for all your work doing that. That's really important right here on I-5 on a corridor that's known for human trafficking. And I don't know what we can do to, to make sure that those folks get arrested next time, because that individual did get away. But you guys kept a child safe that day. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the comment. I want to shout out to the operators, because even though the security staff do a lot at the transit centers, we really don't have much presence out in the system when it comes to the number of revenue miles that are provided by Cherriots. And the operators will recognize things because they're in the community all day long, and they will recognize and get that spidey sense, if you will, that something is adrift, and they will take actions to provide a higher level of safety, especially for our youth riders. So I just want to put the onus back on them. It's really the operators that are out in the community that are doing the majority of that work, because we're limited so much to just the transit centers.
Awesome, thank you.
General Manager?
Great, thank you. So just let me follow up on that. And I fully agree that our transit operators are really the eyes and ears of this community. They see what's going on all over the community, and they do have that spidey sense and do report back when something just doesn't seem right. But for Director Laura Midkiff, we do have an answer to your question about the safety and security, or the question about the 50% of the represented who, so it was 53 represented employees completed that survey, so about 26 would have felt unsafe. That was conducted in April of 2024. We just completed the employee engagement survey the last week or two, so we should have fresh results in a few weeks, and we'll see if that number has changed at all.
Thank you, General Manager.
Yeah, Director Carney?
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi. I loved this report. Kind of started off with a bummer, a lot of the transit incidents, but then it got really interesting with a lot of the other safety and security elements and stuff that I wasn't really expecting to see. And I thought, I did have a question for our risk manager about workplace injury risks that have been identified. And I just am curious, what are the workplace injury risks that we're seeing?
So the majority of our accidents or injuries are like body mechanic type stuff, where they're suffering strains and sprains from lifting things incorrectly, or spending hours on end operating the buses, and they have shoulder and back strains or leg strains from operating the foot pedals. So it's largely ergonomic type injuries that, we can offer them training on how to use proper body mechanics, but we can also make sure that they have the correct equipment and tools necessary to do their job safely.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to, thank Director Laura Midkiff for asking the question about immigration and enforcement trainings, because that relationship crossed my mind as well when we were going through the report. And then finally, a topic that has come up at the SCATS Policy Committee a few different times has been fires on electric buses. And oh my gosh, what would we do if an electric bus caught on fire, and how many thousands of gallons of water would it take to put it out? And I don't know the answer to that, but I was very heartened to see our emergency coordinator talking about that amazing collaborative training with all of those different firefighting entities from around the region on exactly that topic. So I'm excited to share that information at my next SCATS Policy Committee meeting. And thank you again.
Okay, well, yeah, Director Duncan?
If I don't want to go again if anyone else has something else though first. Okay. I have one more thing. I almost forgot to bring this up, but I don't think it's part of our current programming. So if this is appropriate for a different department, please let me know. we just had the autumn equinox on the 22nd, and it's dark. And I know that we are not responsible necessarily for people's first mile, last mile. However, I take a route that kind of lets off basically what feels like the middle of nowhere when you get off. And I'd say more than 30% of the streetlights were out when I got off my bus. I actually called my partner to come pick me up because I stopped wanting to walk. I have to walk under an overpass. Every light under that overpass was out. All of the street lamps on my street except for one, and I again like probably just the majority of the lamps on the road. And so as my partner picked me up and we drove down and kind of did the loop before we got back to the house, I noticed even more that were out on that thoroughfare. So I was just wondering, is there a way that either riders can report easier through like using UMO or something that would be already on their phones? I did end up calling the city of Salem the next day, and they did take it seriously, and they said that they'd look into it and all of that. But I just think a lot about how that probably happens pretty regularly every year when it gets dark. Like I have a lot of equipment that I use to walk with, but I also choose to carpool with my partner a lot more. We're a one-car family, so we do a lot of trading back and forth, and I hate making her get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to take me to work so she can have the car for the rest of the day. But we have no streetlights in a lot of our neighborhoods. So the areas that we do have it is very important because I bring like a big, waste lamp and everything else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was just wondering if there is a way that we could improve the ability for riders to be able to report those outages, or I don't know what our relationship with the city is like because I know that they're the ones that really have to take care of it in the long run, not us. But that is significantly impactful for my safety to be able to take the bus, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. We had one of the commenters today talk about being small and female, and that feels very acute when you are completely alone at 7 p.m. and it is pitch black outside and all the lights are out. So anyway.
What I would say to that is that one of the things we have considered and looked at, is there a way that there's some system that we could engage our riders more to where they could report safety issues? And that would be on any topic sort of a thing. And so in that space, we could see where if we started seeing responses like that, we could partner with the city and pass that information on. But I think if somebody came to customer service, they would get referred to the city and that sort of thing. And so just making sure our people know those resources and know who to contact so that it's not a guessing game at the time. So I think putting that information out to our folks will be beneficial. But I think long term, there's a more of a goal to create an entire system where people can report anything so that we can come and respond to that eventually.
I really appreciate it. I often notice those things when the city's closed, or because the city opens at 9 a.m. and I often take the bus before then because that's when I'm going to work, or after then because it's after work hours. So calling the city knowing that I'm not going to get anybody, and then I often forget until it's the middle of the workday. So having something that maybe I could just open the app and make a complaint, maybe even like the file it would go under, would be wonderful. So thank you very much for the consideration, and we can talk more in the future. But I just needed to bring it up because it's a pretty big problem in my life right now. So.
Yes, General Manager?
Yeah, if I could just add to that, not necessarily addressing how riders can report, but it is a general practice of our operators when they see things happening out there, again, being the eyes and ears, they report it to dispatch, and ops staff coordinates with the city of Salem on those things. A lot of times it's tree branches that are overhanging and those types of things. So. But it is a good idea. There are some mechanisms out there where employees or riders can report.
That'd be great. Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciated this presentation. I also appreciated that you brought in all your staff, so then, we don't get to see y'all very often, so really getting to put more faces to the names. Thank you very much. Okay, so now that's our Creating Community Connections project brief. General Manager?
Yeah, and I'll ask Chief Rose to please come forward.
Good evening, President Inhofe and members of the board. I hope you're having a great evening. I want to echo Director Carney's comments. I have the privilege of presenting our campaign brief, but ultimately staff really is who is our true heroes and taking it home for us. So with that, let's talk creating community connections outreach, where we've been, what we're hearing, why it matters. This last month's series of events, presentations, and open houses, that work has been central to the service enhancement plan. or as some are referring to it as the payroll tax initiative. That's not the nickname I would pick, but hey, you can't always control nicknames. Just ask middle school version of me. So these opportunities are critical for our riders, current riders, future riders, neighbors, and really the business community to look us in the eye like they did today, tell us what's working, tell us what isn't working, what is concerning or frustrating them, and then what's going really well and what they'd like to see in the future. So I'll start with some event highlights. On September 8th, we kicked off our open houses right here in the Senator Hearing Room. A little over a dozen folks came through. The questions were smart, they were thoughtful and detailed, as were the comments. It shouldn't come as any surprise that many questions were about frequency and weekend service. Apparently, people like leaving their homes on the weekends. I know, shocking stuff, but they do. Not me. But, others shared rider-specific feedback that our planning division is reviewing. We love getting the opportunity to engage with the community in that way. On that same day at Keizer United, about 25 to 30 people attended. The hot topics were youth passes and how we're going to be coordinating with the cities on new developments, which is exactly the type of big picture conversation that we are wanting, and it's the whole purpose of these events anyway. On September 16th, staff presented to the South Salem Leadership Foundation. Again, we had about another 20 to 25 attendees. Very supportive group, questions centered mostly on fares and passes. Later that afternoon, as somebody mentioned during public comments, we were at Roth's in West Salem. Again, a dozen or so people showed. We had comments and concerns raised about the payroll tax's impact on small businesses. Others were asking why we aren't serving some new developments that are already here. Another big takeaway, I don't know if this will come as a surprise or not, but some folks expected there to be more of a town hall option, such that they could have more interaction really with all of you. So I think that feedback is really helpful because we get the opportunity to meet the community's needs and wants, and that's what we strive to do day in and day out. So it's nice to know what they are. Most recently, on the 22nd of September, we held an open house at our Keizer Transit Center. We heard excitement about Sunday service, strong appreciation for the Youth Zero Pass, and even practical feedback like, hey, how about putting a vending machine in the lobby, or how about some more bus pullouts on River Road? So good to hear some of that. That night, Chief Lazoom and you, Madam President, presented to the Salem City Council, giving them visibility on the service enhancement plan. Our community members, and mainly our business community members, are encouraging folks to complete our survey, and gosh, we really hope that they follow through on that. That's why we have it in the first place, and that's why it's out there. So whoever can share the message and get more people to complete the survey, we're just so grateful for that. We are hearing clear themes across those events, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. People are passionate, whether that's happy passion or concerns passion. We're just happy for them to have passion, and we're happy to have the opportunity to listen. Some show up frustrated, and most leave feeling heard. I think that's really important. More than once, staff were thanked for simply holding the event. There were so many calls on us to have the opportunity for somebody to listen to them, and we follow through on that. And we're grateful for all the feedback, whether, again, it's about happy feedback or concerning feedback. But like Dante Alighieri says, we'll take passion over apathy any day, even if it comes with a little steam. So bringing us to small businesses, as noted many times today, small businesses are concerned about the payroll tax, its timing, and want to be more included in the process. On the other hand, we have riders who are simply just excited about the option of expanded service and what freedom that will bring to them, especially when we're talking about weekends and late hours, which is where a lot of spend happens. Youth engagement is strong. They love the Youth Zero Pass and they want it to continue. And the community says that they would like board members to be at these open houses, which reinforces why your attendance and your care for the community is so impactful. So thank you for being there for us. We've even received feedback on our website, and I'm happy to say a lot of that has actually been updated, even down to how buttons are worded. So those updates, a lot of those updates have already been made. I'll note that our community engagement isn't just face-to-face, and so I'm really excited to talk to you about this part. We've really leveraged social media during this campaign, and the proof is in the numbers. Nobody wants to hear me talk about numbers, but I have to talk about numbers this time. So from August 26th to September 22nd, we hit almost 139,000 impressions. So impressions, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, is something that shows up on your scroll, right? When you're doom scrolling, something pops up, that's an impression, even if you're not paying a lot of attention to it. That is a 429% jump from this time last year. Woo! Engagements are up 541%. So the difference between impression and engagement is when somebody has some sort of interaction, whether it's a like or a dislike or a share or a comment or a tag. Anything that's like that ends up being an interaction or an engagement. And that will bring me into clicks. So link clicks skyrocketed, prepare yourselves, more than 1,700%. So our engagement rate now is 5.2%. That's well above industry average. I'll beat you to it. Industry average, if you're gonna ask me what it is, it varies, but it's between 0.11 and 0.72%. So we're doing great. Translation, people aren't just scrolling past us, they're stopping, clicking, and participating. And really, so many kudos to staff who has, gotten past their shyness and put themselves on camera. That's not easy either. So just big up to the community, big up to staff. The stories from our board and our writers are up. They're shared across multiple channels. And I will reiterate what we talked about during our work session, which is that we've even been able to use some of our stories, particularly John Welsh, who is one of our million-mile drivers, in our recruitment videos. So it's going really nicely. So yes, we've had modest turnout in person, which again, I'll reiterate, is better than the 0 that we were told we were going to get. So that's good. But online, we are reaching literally thousands more. One post in and of itself, just one of them, reached 45,000 people in its first 2 days. So big deal that we're meeting people where they are. Together, those channels mean we're hearing from a broad cross-section of the community, not just the few who can carve out time to come to an open house. So we're asking people at the end of the day to see us not as just a bare bones option or something that's necessary for other people, but as real infrastructure, a valued and valuable community member, and something a capital city should be proud of. And the community is telling us that that's what they want. They want more frequency, they want better weekend coverage, they want later hours. We're building the case both with in-person voices and online engagement, and your presence matters too. Thank you so much for showing up. It signals really to the community that their appointed representatives care. And again, I'd be remiss not to call out at least one more time the planning development team, the customer service team, and the outreach teams for all of their dedication. So as we continue this campaign, our focus is credibility, visibility, communication, and as I say, delivering the kind of transit service that Salem deserves as Oregon's capital city. That concludes my prepared comments, and as ever, I am so happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions or comments? Yes, Director Carney.
Thank you, Chief Rose. And I just have to give a shout out to my fellow board members for your showing up on social media. I'm liking them when I scroll past. Great work, strong work. I'm so proud of our engagement and the way we're communicating with our community. It's so exciting. But I had a question based on some of the feedback that you shared, and that is something we heard in our comments earlier this evening too, and it's the small businesses. And I hear the term a lot, but I'm not sure I understand. Like, does it start at a one-person business and a small business is up to like 20 or 25, or is a small business up to 250, or is a small business up to 500? Like, what is a small business in Salem? Do they know? Do we know?
It's such a good question, and I think that there are varying ways to answer it. So if you look at it from an employee and labor relations perspective, which is half of me, then you would base it on the legal definition of small businesses. I think that there are other ways that we can look at that, especially as it relates to taxes. And it looks like gentleman manager is going to
Go ahead and finish.
So it really does depend. I could get you some of those different buckets if you'd like, but I think it just depends.
Well, I would just add to that, yeah, that's a moving target. There's some small businesses that are multi-million and a couple hundred employees. But I think when we looked at the trying to determine what the impact is of the proposed payroll tax, the information we got from the employment department said that the average business in the Salem-Keizer UGB payroll was $500,000. So that could be one employee making $500,000 or 10 at 50,000. So I would say it's probably in the teens and smaller, I think. And based on who we heard here, they're generally smaller businesses.
Okay. Yes, Director Duncan.
I'm going to take a month off from having any critiques because I think that out of all of I've said a lot of things over the years, and I have to just take a genuine moment to say you have responded very well, and I just really am very appreciative of feeling very heard with the work that's been done this last year in particular around communications. You should be very proud of those numbers. Your whole team should be very proud of those numbers. Every person who's participating with those videos, and I've seen them, should be very proud in those numbers because as somebody who's worked with staff, it can be very hard to get people to participate in videos or even to coordinate them to get it together. So I've been very impressed to see so many people and the volume you're putting out, knowing you're also doing 2 different roles. So thank you for all of that. I also want to say I was at 2 of those open houses, and we had quite a representation of specifically chamber board members at those. So I would say that of the people that I spoke to at the open houses, I think those were largely what I would consider larger of the small businesses in the area, just simply from my knowledge of those particular businesses. But if you want, I could kind of give you I tried to kind of keep a running list of everybody I talked to, so you could kind of decide for yourself how you feel about like that particular subsect of who we talked to at the open houses. I think that we had that representation level largely because I think a lot of our marketing came from the listserv for the Chamber of Commerce, because I subscribe, we're a member, and so appreciative to them for the publicity. I really appreciate everybody who came out to talk to me. I think because I was the only board member at the first 2, and it was quite a lively discussion, and I'm really appreciative to the staff, Shofi and Kiki, who really came in clutch a couple times when I forgot a date or a number or got one mixed up because I'm human. So thank you very much to the staff that put all of that together. A lot of people, I think, learned things, and that was really great. I really heard the need for a town hall. I think we can talk about what that might look like that's open to the whole community. And also, I was really glad it wasn't a town hall. I was really glad that we had the maps available and people could see the before and after, because largely the audience we were talking to were people that had never taken the bus or were not bus reliant in any way. So maybe they'd taken it once or twice, like as a shuttle service or just to try it out, but that was the extent of their experience. So having the maps, I think, was really nice. We were really able to talk about things, and staff was so prepared and so knowledgeable. So I'm really thankful for everybody that took the time to do that. So anyway, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, yeah, I also just want to give kudos, because I feel like for the entire time I've been on the board, I have not seen so much like social media engagement, and I feel very heard and represented. And also just shout out to anybody in Cherriots that maybe is interested in participating in your reels. They can just reach out to you, because yes, definitely been on that side of it's so much harder to ask people to participate, because suddenly all the people that are interested are no longer interested, or their schedules don't work. So
We need a script, or the schedules line up, whatever.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that brings us to our general manager reports.
Great, thank you. So to start my report, first thing I want to talk about is in the transit industry, one of the great aspects of that is the collaboration and partnership that transit agencies have with each other. There isn't really competition. We work together, we share best practices, we help each other out, we answer questions when people are stuck, and we really partner with agencies together to make it better for our individual communities. And one of those peer partnerships is happening right now, so I'll ask our clerk of the board to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, General Manager Adam Pollock. Good evening, President Hinojosa Presi and members of the board. In July of this year, I attended the APTA Transit Board Administrators Conference in Kansas City. And it's an opportunity for some networking, but also to share resources and procedures that may or may not be working for other transit districts, specifically those who are in my same position or similar positions. I was extremely lucky while I was there to make the connection with LTD's Lane County Transit Board Liaison Officer Brianna Gutierrez Thorne, and she is here with us tonight. She's in the black waving. She's been here since noon today, and she plans on being here till tomorrow as well. So we're really excited to work together and continue to foster that relationship and an opportunity for us to collaborate and share resources. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank her and welcome her to Cherriots, and we look forward to continuing to work together.
You picked quite the night.
Yeah. Thanks, Kara. Yeah, it's LTD does a great job for their community, as do we, and so it's great to have relationships and share each other's victories and frustrations. So thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Okay, so last week I, along with several of my colleagues, attended the APTA annual meeting. It's known as the Transform Conference. It is the annual meeting for the transit industry, and some good sessions, a great opportunity for us to see each other in a little different light, being away at a conference. But for me, the most important aspect of the conference was that the legislative committee, which I am a part of, approved a set of recommendations for the reauthorization of the next transportation bill. And they'll now go to the full APTA board for adoption. Key to that set of recommendations for small operators was the inclusion of the 40-40-20 capital distribution, 40% to capital improvement grants, 40% to rail, and 20% to bus and bus facilities. And that 20% is where we get our funding from. And the importance of that inclusion is to honor what I'll call a time-honored tradition of maintaining that ratio. Prior to the current transportation bill, that ratio moved around a bit, where the bus and bus facilities got down to around 12%. As part of the current bill, we have moved that to now 19%, and we'll continue with that recommendation to move it to 20%. From 19 to 20 doesn't sound like much, but that's millions of dollars available for bus providers. So looking forward to that set of recommendations getting approved by the board, and then we will flood Capitol Hill with the set of recommendations. In addition to that, yesterday, the executive leadership team met with representatives from TransPro, and we had a metric workshop to look at some revised and updated metrics that we want to display on our TransPro dashboard that support our four areas of concern, our 4 areas of focus for our strategic plan. So you'll see some of that work once it gets flushed out a little bit better. And then the last two things. One is I'll offer my congratulations to our Million Mile Club members. As Tom said, that is a big deal in the transit industry. If you drive for 8+ hours a day for every day for 12-plus years without getting in an accident. That's pretty darn good. And when our customers and even our community talk about the valuable service we provide and the safe service we provide, it's because of the operators that get recognized like they did this evening. And I did mention earlier when I was answering Director Laura Mitkiff's question, we did complete the employee engagement survey, and I do believe the customer and community values are done also. So we expect to get the results of those surveys in the next several weeks, and we'll be rolling them out to you once we get those. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. All right, on to our board member reports. Director Laura Mitkiff.
Thank you, President. I'll be brief. I just really want to thank all the folks who came out to speak with us today and at all the events that Hale spoke to earlier. We have an important decision ahead of this body, and I'm just grateful for the public's engagement in that process. So thank you to everyone who came, and that concludes my report.
Okay, Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi. STIFAC did not meet this month, but I did go to quite a few different open houses and neighborhood association meetings to talk about the proposed expansion, and it was awesome. It was awesome to be able to share our ideas with the community and hear about their support for Cherriots. That was really great. And then more specifically, when I went to the open house in Keizer at the Keizer Transit Center, we had some folks that had come in and shared stuff, but I noticed that like we were missing a lot of folks, so I started running to the bus stops and catching folks before in between transfers, and it was much of the same. Everybody was really happy. There was recommendations that we've already heard. There was one lady who was waiting. She was trying to get on 12, and she had to wait a whole hour before her bus would come again. So she had concerns, about that, and really appreciated our enthusiasm for expanding service more specifically to her area. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Director Carney?
Wow, all over the place tonight.
Well, see, I'm technically going by sub-district numbers.
Oh, I
I'm
see.
just keeping you all on your
I
toes.
see. Yeah, indeed. Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi, for keeping me on my toes and everything else. Like Director Laura Mitkiff, I'm very impressed with our community members showing up to this meeting tonight and sharing their comments here and at the open houses and online. I think that feedback is so very important as we move forward in this process and with this decision. So yeah, just very grateful to those that took their time to come here and attend this meeting and share their thoughts with us. The SCATS Policy Committee did meet earlier this week on Tuesday, the 22nd. It was a very light meeting, and we were out in under an hour, which is, that's like the days gone by of the SCATS Policy Committee. That hasn't happened in a while. We received the Congestion Management Process Yearly Report, so no decisions there. The consultation process document, we reviewed how they consult with different entities, including tribes and federal agencies and stuff like that. And then we reviewed, albeit briefly, a long list of modifications to the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Plan. A lot of things were sort of pushed to the next year's cycle, sort of like right-of-way access and stuff like that was slipped over. So it was a longer list, but very few financial implications involved. And yeah, we were done by 1 o'clock. It was great. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Director Davidson.
Thank you, President. As I think is probably apparent, I am having a little bit of difficulty speaking. I recently had some surgery that has impacted my ability to speak. I am on the mend, though, happy to provide a report. I've been quite involved with the Council of Government since we last met. McCrae Carmichael, the Community Development Director for the COG, has been appointed the Acting Executive Director. Wonderful appointment. As you all may recall, the Executive Director departed. McCrae is filling in on an interim basis. She's agreed to a contract for 6 months while we identify next steps. Among those next steps, today, a new committee, the Financial Advisory Committee, of which I serve on, as well as our Deputy General Manager, David Trimble, serves on, convened. This is a committee that has taken a deep look at the Council of Government's finances, both short-term and long-term. And then the Scott Derrickson, the city manager of Woodburn, is the chair of that committee. So that's my report from the COG. Outside of the COG, I've been spending a little bit of time digging through some history, looking back at the history of Cherriots and attempts by Cherriots to adequately fund transit. I want to just share a few highlights that I've learned. So back in 1975, that's 50 years ago, the headline from the Capital Journal is City Blast Chamber for Inaccurate Bus Report. The city councilor says, I was impressed by its lack of accuracy. The mayor at the time said the fact sheet is a distortion. I am beyond disappointed with it. So, the transit district was not created in 1975. In 1977, they make another go at it. Our friend, who was a city councilor at the time, Peter Courtney, is quoted as saying that the opposition has come from a segment of the business community that, quote, wants to leave the rank and file out in the cold. That was reported in the Statesman Journal. 1977, no district. 79, there ultimately is a district, but no funding mechanism. Ultimately, there's a property tax, but it's not enough. Almost immediately, Cherry starts looking into payroll tax because the property tax was never enough, even from the beginning. In 1993, there's another attempt at a payroll tax, this time for 0.6%. The Statesman Journal, to set the context, says the Salem Transportation Plan, which the City Council adopted in 1990, calls for 20% of commuters to use public transit by the year 2020. So, it didn't happen. I'm noticing a theme where there's government documents indicating an audacious goal and then no support to achieve it. Now, the 1993 ballot measure fails. In 1995, there's a retrospective because Cherriots is in dire straits at this point. They've had to cut service. The Statesman Journal, and once again contextualizing this, they say, quote, it seems that a low-key transit system is part of our civic psyche. It has been a political oddball from the start. Its healthier peers in Portland and Eugene have state authority to raise money through payroll taxes. This is not some secret. This has been a known issue for 5 decades. Here, Peter Courtney again, he says, quote, "The district was structured in a way that it couldn't become a strong component of the transportation system in the metropolitan area. It was baked like this from the beginning." So I completely reject anyone who says that what we have is enough. It never was enough. It was deliberately conceived by, as Peter Courtney says, segments of the business community to leave the rank and file workers out in the cold. We are now experiencing 5 decades of neglect. I could go on, read more things, continue to become less and less intelligible as I speak, but I think I've conveyed my point. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Director Davidson, and for your efforts while you're recovering. Director Duncan.
Thank you, President Hinojosa-Pressy. So I did a lot of things this last month. Very few of them are part of the roster of report that I normally give, but we'll go through them really quick here because I know we all want to go home. I want to thank the Demobrats podcast for being the only podcast that reached out to have us come and speak. I believe was the only one. I reached out to a few others that did not get back to me. And so I just want to appreciate them for actually reaching out to me before I got around to reaching out to them and basically letting us just talk. That was really wonderful of you. Thank you very much. I also want to thank everybody that came to both of the open houses. I really enjoyed talking to every one of you, regardless of if we agreed or not. I learned a lot, and I appreciate you turning out for a thing that you care about and that I care about deeply as well. I also want to thank the Morningside Neighborhood Association for letting me come and present, kind of, spur of the moment, and that was also very wonderful. And it's dark. It's been the autumn equinox. I encourage everyone to be very careful. I've said a lot of things at my little ending remarks lately about how I'm feeling about everything, but I think tonight there was one particular comment that really stood out to me, and I just kind of want to highlight it, which was that somebody mentioned that when they were dependent on the bus, they would not have been able to come to a meeting like this to speak. And that, to me, is echoed in the amount of written comment that we got that was not read out loud tonight that was in favor of the bus. And I know that we don't really talk, or of the expansion project, we don't really talk on what the public comment is. It is in the packets. You can read it online. But I don't want what was visually apparent here to necessarily dictate how people feel about what's been going on and what we read and who we talk to every day. This is a very split issue. It's pretty even. I will say the power dynamic is not even, and I think I am acutely aware of that, and I hope the community is as well. When we listened to the pros and cons tonight, it was very apparent to me everyone has something at stake here. Like, no matter what we do, there's going to be somebody that feels like they lost out, because that's life. But I'm very acutely aware of the power dynamics in the room. So anyway, appreciate everybody for being here, and we will continue to consider.
Director Holmes.
Thank you. I had the opportunity, along with Director Navarro, to go to the Keizer Transit Center open house. Appreciated it wasn't, I would say, super well attended, but RJ's correct that he was running around the whole transit center trying to get feedback from folks, so I really appreciated that from him. I had the opportunity to chat with him. We had a number of young people who I think were just there to get the bus, but they shared with us, I think we've heard this over and over, they really appreciate the fact that they have the zero fare option to be able to use the bus and get places and not have to have their parents shuttle them around or just be stuck somewhere. So I think it just shows it's really, really necessary. And they all, of course, supported additional services, especially when they screw around and miss their bus. So you did have, of course, some other folks show up. One person in particular who was a member of the business community had a chance to listen to him out, and I think he bent Shofi's ear quite a bit too. But I just want to thank the staff. A number of staff folks there. Had a chance to talk with some of them. I talked with Tom quite a bit, actually. I appreciated the chance to be able to do that and hear from him about a whole bunch of different things because we had some time on our hands because it was lightly attended. So, but yeah, I really appreciate the staff and all their work there. And yeah, that's it. Look forward to another one next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna stand on my soapbox as well, and also probably reiterate some of what Director Davidson has stated. But I did want to start off with saying that, you know, what I heard tonight and what I see very often, very recently, is a lot of concern and fear. And it's something that I understand very poignantly. And I appreciate the folks that took the time to come out and share their concerns and their fears with us and have a very vulnerable moment very publicly. And I, again, just want to thank folks for that. And for what it's worth, I think I'd like to clear up some misconceptions. One of them is reiterating to Director Davidson's points, is that transit districts in Oregon have always been funded by employer payroll taxes. They were always supposed to be funded by employer payroll taxes. Cherriots was specifically excluded from being able to access an employer payroll tax. They, over the last 40 years, have made do with what they've got, and it's not enough. This is a barely existing transit system, in my opinion, which is why in 2005 we did precisely as a lot of people are recommending. We cut underperforming lines. We centered our system around a downtown transit center, and we established the core network. And because of that, ridership plummeted. Of course it would. We took away a community service. To Mr. Sullivan's point, I don't know what my eyes have to do with my friends, but what I saw in 2017 was a service that ended early, leaving people stranded, and a service that didn't run on weekends. To Chief Rose's point, you know, people tend to like to go out or they have jobs. In 2021, that changed. For the first time in 10 years, Cherriots had weekend and evening service. For the first time in over 10 years, community members had a choice. To the concerns of taking away support to nonprofits, I also fully understand that and am deeply and poignantly aware of that. Our nonprofits are primarily grant reliant. And over this year, many of them have seen substantial amounts of money and funding been taken away from them. But instead of pitting us against each other, we should be coming together. Cherriots ensures donations to our local service nonprofits, everything from providing passes to their clients to sponsoring their events. To Ms. Gwynn and others in comparison, bringing us into comparison with Akron, Ohio, I would absolutely love to have their over $57 million sales tax revenue. But I am very limited into what I can access. I understand the fear of what we're facing, but I want to put at the forefront what we're proposing. An over $83 million investment to Salem. For every $1 invested in Salem, we put $2.15 back into the community. If we're asking for $39 million, we're giving you $83 million back. We're suggesting homes that maintain their value 42% over the rest of the market. The ability to develop within 90% of permittable density. An average cost reduction of $755 a month for our constituents. And also to highlight, we currently provide access to over 45,000 low-wage jobs in Salem. We ensure bus stops within a quarter mile of low-income housing. Our low-income migrant families have always been a priority, and we can say that we are directly serving them 362 days a year, and I would like to make that 365. But I guess what I'm most disappointed in is the empty calls for collaboration. 7 years ago, this decision was a collaboration between the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, yes, the late Peter Courtney, and the late Jackie Winters. I'm not very keen on returning to someone that does not keep their word. And with that, I will conclude my report. It is 9:24. We're adjourned.